Okay, there we go.
There you go.
There we go. Yeah, no, it's very strange because prior to the last 48 hours, I think the biggest thing people were bitching about on, at least on this side of social media, was like apparently YouTube's algorithm has changed.
Yes.
And I think that it's borked everybody. I know that there's a way to correct that or fix it. I just don't. I haven't done it yet because
YouTube is really screwed with my views. I don't know if that's just because I upload on like Friday night.
Well, uploading on weekends is a surefire way to get screwed on viewership, is what I've been told by countless people. So I try hard not to do it.
I mean, I might upload an episode of Content Minded tomorrow because I'm going to be away this weekend. And then next week is going to be grokked because of another personal thing, family was emergency, blah blah blah. Not emergency, but family thing. So
as soon as we went live, my friend was just like, you know who covered this issue, and it was like Red Letter Media did a great video on it, and I'm like, this is the man who has like 2,500 movies reviewed on his Letterboxd account. Like, you know, some people have Twitter. Some people have Letterboxd. What can I say? we all have our vices. You know, he knows.
We could probably I like to think that we review movies better than these like letterbox dirtbag types. Like,
well,
I don't know.
Except he's a huge chud, so it all kind of works out for him.
Oh, he's a letterboxer.
Yeah, he's the letterbox chud that goes really far in that regard. It makes it all the more entertaining because.
Wait, so Red Letter Media had a video on the YouTube algorithm?
Yeah, and apparently today the Elon Musk had tweeted out that he's like, we're releasing parts of the X algorithm, so we're making it open source or something.
Yeah,
or at least revealing it to the public.
Give it feed it to the trough. That's, you know.
Which, I mean, it's kind of insane where it's just like, this is what we're going to talk about rather than the question of, it was like Peter Navarro, right? Like he had a tweet out talking about just like the issue over India, right? And it's like, well, we're going to make like the algorithm more appropriate or more available to do X, Y, and Z. And keep in mind, like, you know, Peter Navarro is senior counselor for trade manufacturing with this administration. And he's like, India has the largest population in the world, and all it can do is manage a few 100,000 ex-propagandists to jerk around a poll. Too funny, America. Look at how foreign interests use our social media to advance their agenda. And this is on top of the fact that there is a coffee owner or a coffee shop owner in Dallas-Fort Worth who had been doxxed and had the Times of India repost his dox and things like that.
For what?
Because he had posted a video on social media that had noticed like his neighborhood was more or less like kind of all blocked off due to some like party or festival or whatever. It was all Indians, all subcontinentals. And he was like, I don't want my kids to grow up in like India. I want them to grow up like in Texas or the United States. And because he's like a business owner, they found him, they doxed him, and they've been review bombing his coffee shop, which I now know where I'm going for coffee next time I'm in the Dallas-Fort Worth network area. And it's just like, okay, well, that's really depressing. But I mean, it's like, oh, well, the algorithm's free. And it's like, okay, well, it's the same thing with community notes. Like, you can claim these things have no value, but the people that run them have an obvious agenda. And it is ridiculous.
Yeah. Another Shiva statue has dropped in Brampton. So
is that true, or are you just making the joke?
No, it's true. They did Shiva now. They had a Hanuman, they had Rama, and now they have Shiva. So Krishna's probably next. Anyways, this is episode 134, Men at the End of History. I should probably have an article by a feminist next week just to balance things out. I should have an article by Naomi Wolf.
Oh, man. Yeah. Well, I quite enjoy the American Affairs Journal, so I'm always like surprised when I see an article that like catches my interest. And I'm a fan in that regard.
Do you know what Naomi Wolf does nowadays?
What does Naomi Wolf do these days?
On Twitter, she does Hebrew Bible readings.
Really?
Yeah, she went from like the most. I love her so much. She's so beautiful. For like 60 years old too. Like she's got like she has the body of like a 40-year-old.
Sure.
She used to be like the top, the beauty industry. And like, went to war with, it was actually a pretty respectful thing with her and William F. Buckley. But now she like became like anti-woke and she does like Hebrew Bible readings, and she like attends meetings for young Republicans in New York. I love her
What
so
a
much.
wild time, I suppose, the last decade of politics are.
It's like, you know, the slash bar, like Naomi Wolf, Naomi Klein. Like you know, obviously.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I
No,
should say that No Logo is a good book. I gotta just say, but then Naomi Klein, like, she became like a hideous, like, globalist creature. Whereas Naomi Wolf just became such a beautiful, beautiful dissident. So
may we all be so lucky in that regard to have our careers play out the way that they do. Yeah, how can we go? How do we do, fellow arithmeticians of certain persuasions? It's a good time. That's right. Well, a lot of our familiars are in chat, and as we pour in, I'll break with the jokes for a minute, and I'll just be serious for about 5 minutes, and I'm gonna cover it now. We're gonna mention it now, and we're gonna get it over with and rip the Band-Aid off, because a lot of times in our current political environment, we're intimately aware through our social media and our group chats and our networks that you and I are not in charge of things. We are not generals. We are not statesmen. We are not secretaries of state. We're not cabinet ministers or anything like that. And you're kind of left watching, for lack of a better phrase, you're watching like a 20-car pileup, and you're watching it happen in real time. And of course, you're on the other side of the median. You're rubbernecking. You're looking, because there's not much you can really do, unless you're in a position where you can get out of your car and help people. And when people do get out of their cars and decide to help people, especially with our current political environment, those people get put through the ringer, whether it's Kyle Rittenhouse or Daniel Penny or the countless other good Samaritans that would do any pro-social and pro-civilizational thing in order to stop lawlessness and in order to stop savagery from affecting those around them.
In any small way, too.
And in any small way. And then at the end of the day, everything that's played out the way that it has leaves you kind of just struck in abject horror, because at the end of the day, the war really is on just seeing your lying eyes and seeing it on camera and seeing it for everyone to play out. My timeline, for better and for worse, and at some points it feels like for worse, but it's important for these things to be seen, has been filled, unfortunately, with that brutal murder that had taken place in Charlotte, North Carolina over the last 48 hours. The footage is out there. You can watch the whole thing if you wish. I've seen some pretty nasty footage from, Live Leak and the rest in my overly online young adult life now as I'm getting older. And that may be the most gut-wrenching thing I've ever seen. I've seen everything from everything from cartel beheadings to drone footage in the Ukraine conflict, but this one was the most upsetting and the most really gut-wrenching. The shock.
Well, you could see her fade away. That's what's the worst part about it.
Yeah,
you could see her realizing it and fading away.
Yeah.
It wasn't as bloody or as gory as a lot of Ukraine footage, but it was disturbing in a way I think strikes to, I think, especially men on a very primordial level. And I think that there's a horror that is there. And even if it is censored, right? Because the video it's got the blurry.
Some of it is. Others, I think, have been shown without it.
I didn't know that.
I have seen 5 or like what feels like 5 or 6 different clips or different angles now. Alex Jones released one of all, and as frustrating as it is sometimes to see your timeline filled with it, like I literally just put my phone down for most of the day because of it. But it's just a reiteration, and it's a very real and tragic reminder of what kind of society that we live under, where the things about the rule of law or justice or due process become nothing more but rhetorical shields and Mott and Baileys to allow lawlessness and to allow the worst people on earth to walk free and to not do anything about it. This last week, in the last 5 or 4 days, has shown clearly blatant lawlessness, ethnic narcissism, and judges and magistrates, both in North Carolina and across the country, who either have not passed the bar in holding these positions or are moonlighting to hold a treatment and therapy center to literally profit off the very people that they let go in the name of rehabilitative or restorative justice. America has a lot of problems, and this is clearly a sign of it. Whereas just a couple of weeks ago, we were mourning the loss of 2 children who had been shot up by a terminally online individual who had engaged in mutilation and chemical castration, shot up a Catholic school. America, for a lot of places, and all of our goodness, we are also the world's largest open-air insane asylum in various parts of the country. And it becomes really safe to say that you can't say what you want to without fear of reprisal or without very blatant cancellation, debanking, and the rest, despite the change in administrations after the election. That Ukrainian girl did not have to die. She left a country that was being bombed, was engaged in a conflict, and she'll be buried here. And America's great, liberal lie of egalitarianism and equality has once again claimed another sacrificial victim on its altar of ideology and everything like that. And whereas you'll see people like Matt Iglesias and you'll see others open their mouths and say, well, clearly that you're not doing enough. We've spent over $22 trillion since the war on poverty began with LBJ's Great Society over 60 years ago, has not shown any of the promising results that we were hoping so. This sort of liberal Kiliasm, this utopianism that seems to infect every aspect of progressive politics, has only killed thousands of people in this country with no real recompense and with no real sense of justice, whether it's the community relations service or the ongoing idolatry of people like George Floyd and the rest in 2020, and the countless other names that unfortunately have been drilled into my head by progressive propaganda. I know
Mike
that it's
Brown, Trayvon Martin.
Yeah. And with a president at that time, Barack Obama, who instilled and inflamed more racial tensions in this country since the 1960s and since 1990s. And while it's important for us to talk about the law and things like that, there is no answer that you can give other than to demand justice and to demand that, because at the end of the day, progressive DAs and with groups like the Wren Group and George Soros money and the rest have done policy strategies throughout 40 far left DAs across the country to ensure that they're doing model policies so you can have donor support, nonprofit relations, to ensure that the very worst people on earth are not in an asylum, not in an institution, and not rotting in prison, and are not getting the capital offense and the capital punishment that they duly deserve. While I'm not the one pulling the lever, I certainly have witnessed enough people whose lives have either been ruined or have just witnessed the abject destruction of nice, wonderful cities and beautiful homes across the country to say that it's that there's not much you can say other than what has been repeated for the last several decades. It is tragic that this has happened, and that I have no further words to say other than I am beyond enraged. I have no...
Well, and we pray for her soul as well. That's another...
Well, of course.
Yeah, that goes without saying. But
and I mean, may God keep her and may her soul be with the righteous rest. But regardless of which, the spectacle of all this, in the same way with Austin Metcalf and countless others, Cannon Hinnat and others throughout the years,
or that 20-year-old, the kid that was a staffer in DC.
Yeah,
his mother appeared on Night Owls last night.
Yeah, which they made the episode free so you can hear her voice and reaction.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm getting it out of the way now in case people wanted to send a question or ask about it. I wanted to just say it because I've seen her death more times than I would like to count on my timeline today. And I get it. It's important. It's a rallying cry because this shit has to stop. It's the same thing with, when just a few years ago, they were like, stop Asian Pacific Islander hate or whatever. And it's like the New York Police Department would post videos of some Korean woman getting beat the tar out of, and it would be another person just like the killer of Irina. And here we are. So I'm sure yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, like, even here in Canada, like I was driving my mother to an appointment far away because God forbid the Canadian healthcare system have any efficiencies put in place. But I was listening to Charles, what's his name, John Oakley, and John Oakley is a very, very old timey radio personality here in Ontario, and he's like the most moderate, he's like one of these like moderate boomer centrist conservative types, but in Canada that means something a bit even more centrist than in the American Rhino. And even he mentioned he's like, some people like Tucker were saying about like George Soros funded DAs and stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, even he's saying this. So, but there's two things I would say. One is that I tweeted about this, in a lot of ways, the sort of saturation of these events, and to see this unfortunate, this poor young woman who escaped a war zone. And by the way, they are drafting women now, or at least in some limited cases. So to see her image over and over again creates a sort of a hypermedia phantasm, and these incidences quickly burn out, and then things repeat, and they slip into this sort of weird beyond that escapes memory till the next incident occurs, the next one, the next one, the next one. And I feel like the gravity of what actually is happening, the most innocent of people that are affected, which leads to my second point I'll get to, that it seems like the sort of saturation of the image, in a way, like it divorces the reality of the situation, the gravity of it, the weight of it, from what's actually happening. And I think like that's, to me, my critique of constantly sharing the images in these videos. But at the same time, I think that a positive note to balance that out would be that even like mainstream media has been forced in a small way to really talk about this woman. And even though if you are on the sort of left liberal persuasion, this is kind of like a discursive death knell, because what can you really say about it? Anything you say about it's going to put egg in your face. So another point, that the one thing I have seen of a lot of these like Maddie Iglesias, like centrist or progressive types in the media that have talked about it, they've talked about what's the thing? The society failed this person, the stabber. And I'm thinking like, well, in a certain way, like it's cliched to say like woke, more correct, but in a way, like, yeah, it's like society did fail this person because society failed to adequately deal with someone who presents a very clear danger to themselves and to others. And there really is no institutional capacity to deal with a lot of these cases where, when they aren't doing something that is overtly criminal, but you could tell they're going to get worse, it's like those cases slip through the cracks. And you can't really deal with those sort of in-between cases of, say, a homeless person harassing someone on a subway, but not harassing you enough to really get you a criminal charge, or not harassing you enough to really have the cops deal with it because the cops are dealing with stuff. And my opinion, I'm not a big fan of the police, but like, for argument's sake, right? So there's a lot of cases that go between the cracks because of a lot of, this is what I forget which show talked about this. I think it was Stormy Waters that talked about this, where a lot of these major cities like New York, Chicago, or even places like Raleigh, where was it? In North Carolina, Charlotte, not Raleigh. A lot of the cases where the cops instinctively know that there are DAs that are sympathetic to certain demographics or to certain acts of violence, or because they have this transnational progressive belief, or they're simply being funded by a lot of they're put in positions by a lot of these lobby groups and think tanks and NGOs.
Well, I wanted to put this thread up that I had saw our friend Florin Verse put up.
So they don't want to do the paperwork because they know they're going to get released. That's what I was going to say.
No, you're right. Yeah. So Florin Verse, French writer, great guy. He had said literal Weather Underground members and sons of terrorists in this organization. And I'm just this will probably be the last thing I cover on this one, so I'm just gonna share a screen real quick. Share, because nothing else is being shown. Yeah, so it's called the Wren Collective, a secretive group with very little public profile but massive influence. They're providing communication support, staffing, messaging, campaign consulting, and above all, pre-written policy strategies for more than 40 far left DAs. And you've got some names there. If you want to have fun with that, go look up Chessie Bowden and some of his background and family relations. So, this is from a FOIA, or Wren Collective, writing to the DA of Portland, talking about model policies they've written in Virginia, free staffing, crisis PR support, and donors. So you can take a look at how that would work.
And a lot of the system is designed to basically never depose these people, because
But also to have, bail, pretrial diversion, intake, probation, everything that would be quote unquote soft on crime is there. And so the now removed DA of Orlando sending forensic files to Wren, allowing them to edit the memo explaining why she wouldn't charge a 17-year-old who shot and killed someone at a football game. And they've got access to all this kind of stuff, about the results of gunshot residues. That it was good. Thanks. 2 changes, save them correctly. Shooter's not wearing a mask. Building better cases. So these kinds of things are out there that you can find. They got a report if you're so interested in reading it. This is Parker Thayer, who works at Capital Research. But this is what you're dealing with, right? Not only do they have left-wing ideas, but it's all policy put in place for these things to happen. And they have no problem continuing. Like, to these people, they're happy that this happened, whether unintentionally or intentionally, because this is their goal, and it's nakedly obvious to anyone who has eyes to see it. And that'll be the last I really have to say on this, because I really don't want to get angry, and I'm trying very hard to restrain myself.
Yeah.
But I know that if we didn't talk about it, we would be doing a disservice to the news on what has played out and what's happened. But I think that there isn't much more to say other than for progressivism and for liberal egalitarianism. Another person has been sacrificed on that altar, and it's tragic that it had to take place.
And not to totally blackpill, but I think that, yes, there is a vibe. This particular case being so brutal and being so needless has really tipped off a lot of people. But at the same time, I don't think that, like you were pointing out with these on the ground DAs and so forth, I don't think that there's a lot of political will to get rid of the whole edifice. Or even if there was political will, say by the Trump administration, there's a lot of people in a lot of positions of power who know that they need to defend their own positions of power. I mean, I know this is vulgarized elite theory, but they'll fight tooth and nail against any sort of thing, and they'll wrap it up in the usual buzz terms of racism and so on and so forth. But I think that my general point is that, yes, it is true that society failed this person as they failed, you know what I mean, as they failed this woman. But when they say, oh, society failed this guy, they don't really mean having a sort of institutionalization that's proper, that can vet people that slip through the cracks, that can make sure the public is safe, but at the same time, certain people have a certain form of dignity. They don't mean that. They mean more money for the programs. But what programs? It's not that I should say that I'm not against programs per se, but it's there has to be something done outside of the auspices of the typical left liberal humanitarianist outlook. That if you wanted a true form of paternalism, that's something that's so outside of the norm that you can't do that because you'll be running these people's lives. Well, I think even just admitting that, and listen, I'm not even just specifically talking, I'm not talking about race or anything like that. I'm saying in general, there's a lot of people in North America and in Europe and elsewhere. Well, I mean, everywhere really. But if you want to just focus on Canada, America, the UK, and continental Europe, there is a lot of people who cannot, I should not be controversial to say this. There's a lot of people who cannot control their own lives, who cannot administer their own lives for a variety of reasons. There's a very complicated and complex variety of reasons as to why certain people are deficient in being proper members of society, right? And I think that shouldn't be a controversial statement. And I'm not talking about race or anything like that. I'm just saying that there is a whole lot of people that their capacities are not one of a very complex sandbox style civilization, which I talk about a little bit with Zimmer Schopenhauer. And I think that if you are willing to come to terms with that, then you could craft programs and public policies around that reality. But we have a reality, we have a perception of reality that dictates that everybody's fundamentally the same, and it's sort of like the worst form of collectivist egalitarianism meets the worst form of individualist libertarian sandbox society. It's we have the worst of both worlds. And until you're willing to admit that, yes, a lot of people in a very incredibly complicated society, even people that are normal, quote unquote, cannot control themselves or cannot have slip through the cracks and can't really live to their fullest potential. Unless you're willing to admit that, then there is no real starting position, that people are in fact different. And a lot of people cannot control themselves. And it's not to say that you should go, I'm not saying some like cartoonishly evil fantasy, like a lot of things I'm seeing on the TL, but understandable outrage and anger, of course. But at the same time, not being able to admit that this person that took the life of this innocent girl, woman, I don't want to, she was a young woman, that this person did not belong in the streets, maybe not in the way that the American prison system is now, but certainly not in an avenue in which this person could inflict damage on a public level. And I think that there should be a way of dealing with these cases, right? And I'm not saying like, although now I think this person should, I don't want to say it, but I think there's plenty of problems with the American prison system, as there is problems with prison systems throughout the world. But at the same time, there's just too many cases where the systems that are available are flooded and there's no culpability on a state or county level. And there's just so many cases like this. And the fact that this person had a huge criminal record and was still allowed to be on the streets is something that is unconscionable. That is such a travesty and such a degradation of justice. And there's and Prude, over the years, there's so many cases of this that, that the people, they're in and out of prison like a yo-yo, and it's just
the last thing I'll add, and then we can move on, is that if you have not read John Derbyshire's 2012 essay on the talk, then I highly recommend that you should, if you haven't already. But with that, I'm going to shift gears now. I think that we can take maybe the serious hats off for a moment, and go from there. Because I had it was funny because I wasn't sure what we were going to talk about this weekend, and then yesterday it played out the way that it had, and then today, and I was like, well, this has to get covered. But I had found an article that I thought was particularly interesting, because it's funny you mentioned feminism, and then I thought it was fitting that we're having another another article where I know there's like 3 or 4 people all writing the same thing on the same subject. And I happen to be a subscriber to American Affairs. So I saw this article and I was like, we'll cover it. We'll go from there. So, I mean, I have the title of the stream, of course, is called Men at the End, which is a reference to the article we'll be reading today, which is called Masculinity at the End of History, from Matthew Gazda over at the American Affairs Journal, the fall issue. And it's always good to see how people are taking these things, because at the end of the day, you can't always you can't. I'm sorry, my words are failing me. My mouth is failing. My tongue, brain is not working. Sorry. It's always interesting to see the different points of this, because we've been talking about they say the masculinity crisis, or how men are doing, and I don't think men are doing well. Although I have noticed this, and I do agree with some mutuals of mine on Twitter. I have a lot of, for like the younger, like the Gen Z crowd, there's the breadth and width of maturity between how I was at their age compared to how they are now is so different. Those guys have a lot of their shit locked in and kind of have their act together more so than I was, or some of my
or still am, really. I mean, well, my case, but
yeah. And so I'm constantly impressed by the younger people I meet. And I'm always really happy to see that. But still, nevertheless, we talk about these issues. We've seen the constant gender polarization between men and women. We have seen the I guess you could call it second religiousness, this interest in traditional Christianity, or moving towards pagan folk communities, or just something that is far more oriented towards discipline and action. There's this greater sort of focus on constantly getting more. And we saw this where there's a poll that came out just earlier this weekend talking about the differences between female and male voters for Trump, like between the ages of 18 and I think it was like 25. And like their higher men's priorities were things about like order and having a family and having a good job, whereas like the personal things that they took interest in their identity for female voters that voted for Kamala Harris was like their career and the issues surrounding sort of just like what we would call women's lib. And it's particularly interesting because this gap, like Scott Greer has written about it and countless others have, where there has been this general inversion where men are more religious than women, men are more interested in the home and hearth than women traditionally have been in the past.
Yeah, that's never happened.
No, this is sort of a first, at least in our recent history. And so the traditional norms have seen sort of this weird polar inversion of and so I thought we would cover this article, and then we will go from there. And hopefully, as we continue to read through it, the mood will lighten up, and we can have some interesting commentary along the way. So I have the link to the article down below in the description if you so wish to read it yourself ahead of time, or you already did when I put the link up. If not, we will be reading right along here. So American Affairs Journal, I'm not logged into my account, obviously, but I get the physical copy, which is always nice. So fall 2025. So here we go. Masculinity at the End of History by Matthew Gazda. The statistics are many and grim and fairly well known at this point. American boys and men are falling behind across a range of educational and economic indicators when compared to their female peers. They face higher rates of overdose, suicide, incarceration. They are more likely to exhibit deep social problems such as friendlessness, failure to find romantic partners, and general signs of delayed development from kindergarten to adulthood. These figures paint a distressing picture, but the one that risks turning into a stale caricature before any meaningful response can be mounted from within a complacent or simply uncaring society. A helpless, frivolous, self-pitying, half-formed ersatz man cruelly suspended, Peter Pan-like in a dim twilight between the illusions of an unnaturally prolonged youth and the frustrations of a forever deferred maturity. You've written about this before, about like that eternal September, the beautiful boy syndrome.
Oh yes, yeah. The beautiful boy in some ways is the most vicious plights, I think, because I grew up the opposite of a beautiful boy, if you know what I mean. I grew up as like the chuddiest of chuds. But I think like having observed a lot of them, I think later in life, there's often like a licentiousness and I would say sexual viciousness to them. But when they do grow older, I think that the realization that they're no longer that archetype, I think, is terrifying, and there can be a sort of like escape from that into prolonging that state of sort of not mature, but also like mature enough to do mature things, but not have any consequences for them. Yeah. I think that's terrifying to a lot of them. Whereas someone like me, who's didn't have that. I think like it's a different reality, but certainly I think this really speaks to, I want to say, I don't know a term for it. I know the one thing I came up with recently was sort of like, what would you say, tech bro cosmicism, where like they talk about like life extension and transhumanism and spiritualities, and like they sort of like take the thinnest gruel of the new age and they sort of like appropriate it to their Peter Pan type of I'm going to be a Patrick Bateman style thing forever. And I noticed with a lot of like masculinity grifters, there tends to be a very distinct style of presentation and of talking points. I don't know if you know this, but there's this one channel on YouTube that really constitutes it very well. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you heard of Grim Hustle. Have you heard
No,
of
I haven't.
Well, it's not real. The guy's an actor, but it's like this guy that like this, I think it's like some production company where like the guy pretends to be an ex-Russian mafia boss. And he talks about like this sort of sort of what Jordan Peterson was, where he talks about life and lessons and how to be a man and like how to like get what you want, and like, producers read things and people that don't, and losers consume things and stuff like that. And I noticed like there's a very distinct style with like, as like the manosphere became more popular, or as it crossed over into like the mainstream problem with men, they always have like a very particular aesthetic, and they always appeal to like sort of professions that are kind of outlaw. Like I was an ex-mafia boss. I'm a Silicon Valley guy. I'm this, I'm that. I can help you create wealth. But they always like focus on a certain body of literature that's like meaningful, but also like accessible enough. Like they always talk about Dostoevsky or that book, The Crowd. Like you know what I mean? Like, and they have a very distinct style of like drinking bourbon with nice suits and cigars. And there's this very particular flair of like masculinity grifting that I think is becoming even like semi-mainstream. And it used to be that you were like a total outcast back in the day, or you were like some like Jack Donovan type who had like a very niche, like neo-pagan sort of revival of the mythopoetic men's movement type of thing going on. But now it's like you could tell like a lot of like ex-military operators, or while they claim to be I'm sure a lot of them are fake. A lot of these like ex-operators do this now. Like, you know what I mean? There's a very distinct style. And I think like this passage hones in very well at the Peter Pan thing running through it, where it's like, I'm going to teach you how to be powerful and rich and how to like, but it's always like, all these like cringe woke people are, the cringe woke people are like getting you down or whatever. But like, I noticed like their politics is not very well thought out. It's vaguely conservative, but also vaguely libertarian. And it's revolves around like tech and like these sort of like bro-ish type of professions.
Yeah.
There's something there. There's like not even a manosphere explicitly, but there's like a new man grifter aesthetic going on, a vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And like that Grim Hustle channel is like a great example of that. Yeah, Jocko Willink, exactly. Yeah, Jocko Willink is like one of them. Like you feel pain when you wake up in the morning, your hip hurts like hell. Good. Like it's but anyway, yeah, the Joe Rogan extended universe. That's another great one.
The Joe Rogan cinematic universe of
where it's like, where it's like you're kind of conservative, but you're not. Like politics is not very well thought out, and there's kind of like running themes of like conspiracy theory, like very old conspiracy theory stuff.
Well, I just think of the old green text about Joe Rogan, where it's just like he is a caveman, and you're like, you've explained this is like Joe Rogan wants to know why sky blue, and it's just almost Xavier Renegade Angel-esque.
Yeah, Xavier Renegade Angel.
Even Joe Rogan, I think, had commented on that because he had posted about it. But we'll keep on reading. Men in our society, especially young men, are in the position of not knowing who they are, what they want, or how they're supposed to live, and being, in an anthropological sense, exampleless. The cliche of American masculinity, widely disseminated in the academy, is that masculinity is in a crisis. This is the exact inverse of the truth. Masculinity is desperate for a crisis. It is docile, unsure, and formless. At most, it is in the germinal phase of crisis, lacking a catalytic agent to propel it to its full-blown state, which at least then can be registered and reckoned with. After all, crisis implies that something is happening, that something is at stake. The uncatalyzed proto-crisis, or the non-crisis, of American masculinity is repressed, unexpressed, yet omnipresent. This proto-crisis exists in the first place because tradition has been replaced by representation. Instead of learning from fathers and grandfathers and brothers, from coaches and teachers and priests and pastors, the American male now learns from watching images on screens. Films and television have been playing the role of surrogate father for a long time now, but at least those media tended to have forms, arcs, and archetypes. Today's privileged and mediatic forms, 5-second clips, parasocial personality brands, hey, there's your Jocko Willink thing that you were talking about there, Gio. Yeah. Algorithmically constructed collective identities, fandom, do not even have that. Broing alone. Here we go. Interesting thesis. We have not yet actually had the crisis. It's just not being talked about enough.
Well, even like media, like what was that phrase from True Lies where, he's like an insufferable libtard now, but who's that comedian with the glasses and like Tom Arnold? Was he in True Lies?
I don't know. I never watched True Lies. Well, I'm now literally looking it up so I can True Lies had Arnold Schwarzenegger. Tom Arnold, yeah, you were right.
Tom Arnold. Where he's like, today Marilyn Monroe, like, not Marilyn Monroe, he's like, today Madonna and Axl Rose raise your kids, But it's like it's not even like pop media or celebrities that raise your kids. It's like Twitch streamers raise your kids now. It's like Aiden Ross and
Hassan
Piker.
Hassan Piker and Asmongold raise your kids, which I don't know how. Because I'm not on Twitch and I don't watch it, so I have no. I understand Hassan's popularity just because of like the politics and the broing out and trying to be like a left wing chud, but like. I guess they are that fucking popular because I know who they are. It's strange. It's hard for me to contextualize it because I'm not part of. It's like the same thing with TikTok. Like I'm not on that platform, ergo I don't know anything about how popularity works there. So
did you see this clip? Did you see the clip from Stavros today?
No.
Where he's like, you gotta stop. He's like some woman who's a comedian. He's like, you gotta stop like saying the trans joke stuff. It's like, bro, you were on Cumtown. You like laughed when Nick Mullen dropped the hard R. Like now you're going to be like, I don't think you should make these jokes about trans people. It's like you're a fucking. I'm sorry, but like if Stavros and Nick Mullen and Hassan Piker and on the right, like Asmongold and like Aiden Ross are like your influencers. Like, I'm sorry, man. It's over. And I'm not, like, throwing shade on Asmongold. I'm just saying that, like, to treat him as a public intellectual the way that people used to treat William F. Buckley is, like, I don't know. There's something about that. It's just not, you know what I mean? Like, I think there's something wrong there. But,
well, it's like, I don't know if it was true, but, like, I want to say this was, like, 50 episodes ago. We had someone who, like, in chat, like, say he was like, I think he had said he was like 21, and he's like, oh, I've been watching you guys for a couple of years now, and I'm like, oh, that's when you were like a teenager and a minor. Like, no, get the hell away from here, you know? Like, but then at the same time, it's like, well, actually, you do want to have impressionable young minds, I guess. It's strange because like cultivation theory is inevitably true when it comes to the issues of media consumption. But at the same time, it's just kind of crazy to think about that because then you have to take everything like you're a creator and you have a responsibility. It's like, well, actually, you do. The woke are more correct on that. It's just that they want you to make sure that you're not doing a heckin' racism or anything like that. So we'll carry on. If masculinity arises from the tangible experience in the community and the chain of transmitting knowledge and ritual has disappeared, then what can be left of it? As David S. Gilmour argues in his seminal work, Manhood in the Making, Cultural Concepts of Masculinity, 1991, if there is a universal logos of the masculine, it is found in rituals of danger, violence, virtue, learning the limits of the body, testing strength, showing off shame, experiencing victory, peacocking, wooing women, but it is in doing these things together. Men have to prove themselves, but they do so as a unit. They help each other keep score, and elders oversee the process. Plus, there's hierarchy and competition. I mean, that's true. People like this is why Vivek Ramaswamy's little like shit show last Christmas was so fucking irritating because it's just like, well, America is a place where like it was basically Revenge of the Nerds, where he's like the jock and the football player are champions, and it's just like this high school brain, which again I think has some weird like
it's very American-esque. Yeah.
Well, it is, but also
it's what America shares with Japan, by the way.
Yeah, truly, we're kindred spirits that way. We both have our animation and we both have our high school fantasies, but it's particularly strange because I know this is me just giving you my personal example. Stereotypes exist for a reason, but also, stereotypes are propagated for subversive or propagandistic purposes. But my high school quarterback was also like in the top 10% of the class, went off to West Point, was the most intelligent, kind-hearted person I had ever met. Like, you wanted to be that guy, and was class president and was like an actual Giga Chad, like it was very strange. And it's just like, well, I don't think anything bad of him. Like, and it's very strange to see this sort of.
He went to West Point.
He did. He became he's an officer in the United States military. He's
Holy crap!
He's a good person. And it's just like, I don't, like so I always feel like the whole, like the Crumb comic where it's like, F these people and everyone around me is a jerk. And then it's like normal person just sort of like whistling along and having his happy old day. I feel like a lot of that's there in these sort of analogies.
Self-awareness as a nerd himself. Yeah.
Well, this is why I found the whole that crash out one, just to be like total ethnic narcissism and like this guy should not be governor of Ohio. But on top of that, I was just like, oh, so this guy has the Revenge of the Nerds TV mindset of like, the Untermensch, but the secretly more intelligent over like the big brawny, like grug brained like football player. And it's just like, that world doesn't exist, in my opinion, or at least in my experience. I mean, you only go to high school once, right? Unless you're a high school teacher. And if so, I pray for you. That sucks. But it's very strange because it's like, yeah, those things actually facilitate healthy male bonding patterns and whatnot. Like the guy, like when I did SCA and other stuff, like I'd get my ass beat by guys who were like 10, 15 years older than me because I was like in my early 20s. And like those guys would bruise the shit out of me, but like they would buy me a beer afterwards and teach me how to improve my form. Like these were things that all men should have, and we fundamentally destroyed them, whether it's, as the subtitle here, Growing Alone references Robert Putnam, or of course COVID. Like that was the strange thing after all the lockdown and the masking crap kind of fell out of taboo or fell out of vogue was what do you do, right? Like the dating game had fundamentally changed because like where do you go to meet people, and it's all online.
There's a lot of videos on YouTube. I don't know why YouTube maybe recommends them to me, but there's like a lot of videos of like people on YouTube that they have like one popular video, but they have like 100 subscribers or whatever. And it's always, and not even just men, but also women. They're like, my life is over. This one guy's like, I'm 35 years old and I sort of coasted on like a low-level nepotism job, and now I don't know what to do. And like I have no friends, and I'm like 40 years old. I wasted my life. Like there's a lot of these videos. Like there's a metric ton of them on YouTube. It's like a very popular trend. I think on TikTok too. There's like that core vibes thing. Yeah, like there's a lot of people that are sort of like, but I wonder if it's kind of performative because like having an outlet is like making a video on YouTube about how your life sucks. And so I wonder if that's sort of like a way of assanging yourself by giving it a greater voice, the way that they say that you could tell a total stranger a lot of your life secrets, whereas like, you can't even tell your best friend like a secret. I think maybe it's that sort of like weird inverse thing.
I think a lot of that also has to do with like, you don't have to deal with the consequences of telling a complete room of strangers. Like I just told that stupid, like my own high school experience in that regard. Like I was a total dweeb and an academic. I was the person you should have been beating the shit out of in high school in a lot of ways.
You were like Robert Crumb in that.
Yeah. No, like I wasn't like a resentful jerk. Well, I mean, I was probably to some extent, but like I had a social life. I had a friend group. I dated. I had sex in high school.
You got laid.
Yeah, but like also I did a lot of like speech and debate. I did other activities. I did fencing and things like that. But like I tried to be well-rounded, but like I also, was not in the same sort of like social strata as some other people. But like I don't have like a lot of bad memories of it. But I also know like looking back, I'm like, oh man, there was some really cringe shit that I wish I could have like because again, as I've said before on other episodes, I was the kind of guy in high school and in college when I got my driver's license who listened to Sargon of Akkad, NPR's All Things Considered, and Rush Limbaugh on the EIB network out of my shitty 2006 Ford Taurus. And I loved that car.
On the EIB network.
But I think everyone's a little nostalgic for their first car, the shit they did in it. So I mean, but it's easier to tell a group of strangers that than it would be to like tell your best friend or your girlfriend or whatever, like, hey, here's all the weird shit I did, or here's all the things that I'm struggling with, because then you have to deal with the ramifications of being honest and naked in front of somebody else. And
it's like if you've ever read Portnoy's Complaint.
I have not, but I'm now kind of tempted to.
Yeah.
But because there's this strange thing where my priest had said this one time where he says, in that regard, when it comes to being open about, we stay inside of our own minds, and that cerebral hell is the same shame, Adam feels after eating of the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. Like you cover yourself. You don't want to, you don't want to take it off. You don't want to be naked. Not just bare like actual like physical nakedness, but also like you don't want to bury yourself and either seek help or seek repentance or to seek assistance, because it's much easier to cover it up and to just live with it in your own shame or your own hell that you've made in your own mind. Because when you go back in time in the past and you think about yourself, you're all alone there. There's nobody there with you. It's just you. You're as further away from your friends and from God as from anywhere else. And when we do all this stuff online, where like you see these people, like there's the whole kitchen cells thing I've seen get posted a lot on Twitter, where it started out as people posting shitty meals that they would cook and talk about their lives, and now it's kind of like become this millennial old irony poison where it's like, oh, you know, dried chicken and rice, my life is meaningless, I'm 35 and I've got nothing going for me. And it's like, well, a lot of that feels like you did it to yourself, but also how much of this is just you being like, life sucks, huh? That pop nihilism that we seem to deal with all the time. I feel like so much of that shit has been this like self-inflicted gunshot wound of performative attention.
Yeah, true. But also I think it's incredibly easy to like sort of peter your 20s. I mean, I know from experience, it's very like incredibly easy to like peter your 20s away into frivolous stuff, or like to pursue a path that maybe you should have been doing something different. You should have been paying more attention to certain things. And then lo and behold, you wake up and you're 30 years old and it's clown vid and it's like, oh my God. Like it's very like that I know like there's a lot of criticisms one can levy at Sam Hyde, a lot of warranted criticisms, but that one video he did during the Kickstarter season 1 bit where he's like how to time travel as a man, it's like whoosh, 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 10 years erased, 5 years, that's time you'll never get back. Like it's true, that's time you'll never get back. And this guy that I was watching on YouTube who was 35 and said his life's over, he said like that was the rub of it is like, you know, he's like, the advice I would give to younger guys would be like, do not waste your 20s. Try to like produce something of value, even if it's not monetary value, it's like at least something. I pursue things that don't give you a lot of monetary value, but I feel like if I just wasted away and played video games or whatever during my 20s, I would have been in a way worse position than making the other mistake, which was like I actually chose to pay attention in university. Maybe that was the wrong thing to do, but you know, no, I think that yeah, your 20s feels like it's going to be forever, but it's not. And then you're going to wake up one day when you're 30 years old and not know what to do with yourself, and that's a very terrifying feeling. Yeah. So
what a nice thing to say as I look down the barrel of 30 this later this year. I was like, oh man.
Yeah, but like
it was so funny. It was so funny too.
Cause you like, shouldn't say that, Prue, because you know, you're gonna get married at 30, you have a job at 30, like it's you almost died. I mean, come on, that's like
I say that slightly tongue in cheek, but like on my 29th birthday, a good friend of mine, which is funny,
you'll probably have a kid by the time you're 32.
God, I hope so.
Yeah,
we'll see, Lord willing. We'll see what happens. But like but also like I'm getting married later in my years. Like I mean, I'm also a product of the same factors that everyone else
that's
is.
true.
Where people are getting married later. The average age of the first home buyer is like 48 years old. Like
holy shit!
Yeah, in America, it's bad. It's
that was bad in Canada.
Like I'm pretty positive it's either 48 or 38. Either way, you're middle aged. You know, the idea of the young early 20-something home buyer on the 30-year fixed mortgage is fucking gone. I mean, it exists in some places, but it ain't for me. And I mean, I'm squirreling away some money to eventually invest in a house, but it's like, geez, you know. But I have a lot of friends who are older because I've always sought out mentorship from people. I have a good relationship with my father, but at the same time, you know, I always liked talking to people who had experience in the same way I mentioned. I think it was like last episode or 2 episodes ago. Like my grandfather's 85, going on 86, and it was really impressive. I don't know, he is 86 years old now, which celebrated his birthday not too long ago. But like, if you ask him, like, you know, what it was like fixing or working for, you know, on an assembly line or fixing certain parts of a factory, like he lights up and he gets young again. You know, that shit really interests me. And nowadays it's really hard to do that because they're like, we've used, not to sound too kind of like libtardy, but like we use the sort of like spectrum as this weird cover for talking about things that we're interested in or our hobbies. He's like, oh, you know, like I'm really autistic about this. It's like, no, you're just a normal guy with hobbies. Like, it's okay to have an interest in something that, actually sparks an interest in you that you want to learn more about, whether it's like automotive repair or like every other dude ever who's like, I've got a favorite war I can talk about for 5 hours without any preparation. And it's like, yeah, cool. Tell me about like the the Battle of Agincourt. Like, go for it, man. That's what I'm here for. But I think that we've also kind of created this like self-inflicted. I really do think the irony pill poison stuff doesn't get talked about enough, but we'll carry on.
Well, then Gus started painting when he was 35.
Yeah, you got time.
So there you go.
You got time.
Yeah.
You turned 33 this year, right?
Yeah.
You got time.
Yeah. I mean,
crucify the old man and be born into something new. You have time.
Yeah.
In America, we still have elements of this, mainly through team sports. But as I recall my boyhood from the 1990s, I can see how many of the games that my friends and I played, basketball, baseball, football, boxing, floor hockey, ping pong, poker, Risk, Monopoly, Madden, stickball, were all connected to proving something to each other and to anyone else, like the neighborhood girls. Oh God, I dodgeball. That was my shit. Happened to be watching. But what was already missing from this era was a sense of how these activities related to the organic core of the community. Other than our dads, those who were our little league and hockey coaches, we were on our own for the most part. Paternal influence was present, seen, felt, but too much of it was rejected as interference. In Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, where I grew up, many of us had immigrant grandparents or great-grandparents, but the idea of learning about the old world, the old ways, the old kind of masculinity didn't exist. By the close of the 20th century, the link in the chain of value transmission were under severe pressure, but the whole chain hadn't completely disintegrated. The internet was new. Teen behavior had not yet turned antisocial. There were old men around who belonged to things that at least had vivid memories of belonging to mass membership organizations, unions, churches, veterans associations, Rotary clubs, Masons, Elks lodges, Knights of Columbus, and neighborhood bars. That kind of communal memory is largely gone, as any trip is now virtually empty or of decaying physical meeting places of where these organizations can attest.
Oh man, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. What a terribly sad story of post-industrialization in America. Yeah. Yeah, it's not. I don't think it was as bad as Gary, Indiana, but it was getting there.
I mean, like, talk about a city and talk about a place where, not to mention just Gary, but like, imagine, that everyone, we were talking about this last week too, like the meme about like the place you grew up in no longer exists, or like the little girl behind the Twin Towers. Like, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania is probably one of those places, because like, imagine being this guy, and it's just like, okay, you're a kid in the 1990s, you were about to witness like the last dying gasps of this place that has already been suffering for about a decade or two now.
Yeah.
And now it's like, the world you grew up in no longer exists. Oh my Lord.
That was like Vincent Gallo talking about Buffalo. He's like, I hate it. They hate their own. They're terrible people. I hate going back there. Like, no, but like, but Bethlehem, like, because I believe I know the videos exist on YouTube, but I believe by 1998 it was all over. It's done. By 95 it was done. So yeah, if you grew up in Bethlehem in the 90s, it's like, let's literally like that's the swan song of all of that steel mill industry. And but I mean, the Bethlehem steel thing is a very tragic story. But anyways, moving on.
I mean, it's strange too, because Ben Boyce and I were talking not too long ago, and he had said, you're one of the few people who's like under 35 who has most of his life not on the internet, which is true. Most of my social life doesn't exist online. I mean, it does, but it doesn't. And like I'm the youngest person, one of the youngest people in my county or my region's historical society. Like, that's still a place that regularly meets. I mean, I'm at church like 3 times a week, and I'm surrounded by families, and I'm a godparent to quite a few kids now. And it's like, I guess I'm living a shadow or a faded imprint of what used to be, or at least trying to rebuild it. But he is right. Like, this communal memory doesn't really exist, and everyone's kind of playing with shadows of what used to be, or looking at old, how like those famous, like, I guess, like ash carbon footprints of where people died at Hiroshima and Nagasaki when the bomb dropped. Like, everyone's kind of recreating that from those carbon scorch prints of where like pro-social civilization used to exist.
There was recently I rewatched this. I remember, I don't know why, because YouTube recommended me this video of another documentary about it. There was this Canadian-made documentary, but it was about this carnival in, I believe they were in Western New York. So I'm guessing Buffalo, but you could tell like a lot of the accents were Canadian. There was this documentary, I think you could still find on YouTube. It was made in 2008 called Carney. And it documents the lives of these people. One of them was following around this like small, like bald lesbian. Her name was Harry. And the other people that were, you know, I remember watching this late at night on Television Ontario years and years ago. It was made in 2008. And they were talking about this sort of like dread of the decline of the traveling carnival festival circus thing. Because when I was a kid, I used to go to these things with my parents and my friends, you know, like the sort of county fair type of deal.
Yeah.
And I remember like how sad it was because the season was over. They're all going back to their like meager and poor existences. And it struck me because, you know, I had grown up around a lot of these working class, like lower working class people my whole life, albeit in construction. But there was always like a maudlin sadness to it because you could tell like this particular existence on the very margins of society was on its way out. And I'm thinking like this was 2008. And like there's something very different of like when you're younger and you grew up in something and you think it's never going to end, but then the reality and the media around you changes and life in general looks very different, like we were saying last week. But I remember like looking at that now. I rewatched it. You could find it in Vimeo if you search Carney 2008. I remember like looking at that. I'm like, man, this is crazy. But now if you look like in 2025 after Clownvid, like it's basically murdered all of these things. Like when was the last time, if you have kids or even if, you know, you have younger siblings or cousins or whatever, when was the last time you actually like went to one of these like carnivals or whatever? I mean, in Toronto, they have the X, but that's like so chock full and it's terrible to get around. But it's like, yeah, it's very sad. You know, a lot of these accoutrements of life that you grew up with, or especially after that event, it's gone. And what happens to all these people? You know, there was this one guy. He was one of the guys that set up all the rigs, and he had this this tattoos covered in like stick poke tattoos, and he had this tattoo of a fetus, and he said, "That's my kid because that's the kid that they can't take away from me." And I'm like, I know so many older guys like that in construction, you know, who live very hard lives, and a lot of it, yeah, you could say is through their own choices. They have the typical like lower class degeneracy type of thing going on, but it's like there's so many people that live like that in the margins, and it's like what happens to them when their way of life is just fundamentally destroyed, or goes away in some industry that's no longer there. It's very tragic to think about, you know, and this fact that like what happens to their kids as well that has to grow up and there's no longer the family business, so there's no longer the, you know, the company store or whatever. Yeah, but
yeah, I don't know how much of that exists anymore. Like there are occasional things that stop by where I live that have little rides and things, but it just doesn't feel. I don't know. It's the same thing with like Disney World, you know. Like this isn't like a family or for kids thing. This is for fat late 20s, early 30s somethings to go get what's known as the Disney rash to walk around, you know. But I mean, so much of that too, right? Like how much of my position of that is totally blinded by online experience.
Oh, the chat is saying there's something happening in Poland. There's like Russian drones or whatever. I mean, I don't know. I haven't looked at the news, but I'm just going to bet nothing. I'm also
not gonna. Ukraine's Air Force warns that Russian drones entered NATO members' Poland airspace 29 minutes ago. Poland to close Belarusian border due to Russian-led military exercises taking place. That may be the reason why. Who knows? well, I'm
It's like
I'm
that
not
plane.
gonna.
Remember that was shot down by Ukraine?
Yeah, there was a missile
Yeah.
that landed there like a year and a half ago, and I remember Poso going ape shit, ready for blood. But
Well, we know
well,
that Estonia like allegedly launches drones into Ukraine and targets Russia. So I don't know. The airspace thing is a very tricky situation. I think like
at the
yeah,
end of the day, I'm not going to comment on breaking news because I'm not going to
yeah.
try and cover it live.
But let me just say that a lot of people are itching for Article 5 to be invoked. So who knows what's going to happen?
There's plenty of people that would really love that to happen.
Yeah,
So, but
we'll
carrying
see what
on.
happens.
Yeah. Today, male adolescence largely lacks that primitive self-organizing spontaneity. Sports has been co-opted into an ultra-organized traveling sports. Boys learn from role models online and become hyper-optimized one-sport athletes. If they gamble or bet, it's not over cards or porch. It's on a phone or on DraftKings.
This is
Man,
happening with hockey, by the way, youth hockey. It's
I'm
become this
not.
professional thing.
Yeah, like I'm not a football guy. I am a baseball guy more so than anything else. But I on the weekends after liturgy on Sundays, I'll rest for a little bit and then I'll go over to my parents. Because they live a short distance away. They're like 20, 30 minutes from me, depending on the road conditions. And I go see them and we'll catch up, we'll have dinner and things like that. So the NFL season just started for those that give a shit, I guess. And we were there. My fiance and I, we had dinner. We talked. We caught up with them and all sorts of crap. And I noticed on all, it doesn't matter if you were on CBS, Fox, if you were streaming it on Amazon or whatever to watch the game or whatever. At the bottom of all these things, there were DraftKings advertisements or posts about positions or parlays that you could do. And I thought, oh my, like this shit's not really regulated. And I know that it is a problem and is becoming a larger problem. I don't get the thrill of gambling, I guess, because like I work for my money. I don't. And people are like, well, it's a strategy. You only put in as much as that you're willing to lose. So how much I'm willing to burn, right? I guess I don't have that.
It's made hockey unwatchable.
I don't have that bone in me, I guess. Like I'll occasionally, like at a Chinese gift exchange with family Christmas things, like I'll take the scratch off tickets because like I like the rush of that, but also like I'm like, like I'm not gonna win anything, and also they're free because I just got them in this stupid gift exchange. I didn't pay for them, or they're not worth anything. So maybe it's because I haven't won anything. I don't get the appeal. I don't know.
No, sports betting is such a terrible investment. Like it's designed to just take your money. Like really,
Well, yeah.
Unless you like bet on sure things. Like for example, if there's like the second the sort of division finals and it's game 7 for the Toronto Maple Leafs, guaranteed you're going to bet against the Toronto Maple Leafs. But like, unless you're, it's very funny because I don't watch football, but if I had to, I'd probably root for the Buffalo Bills, which is very funny.
I will say this. That was one of the 2 games I watched. Last Sunday.
Yeah. The Bills got clawed their way from like the
I've been breaking the Greerhead pledge. As I was there, I watched it with my parents. I was blown away because I really thought the game was over by like the halfway through the third quarter. I was like, oh well, Buffalo's never coming back from it. That was an amazing comeback. So I'm sure whoever lost for someone they played Baltimore Ravens.
Okay, yeah.
So whoever, like, speaking of DraftKings, like if you bet on Baltimore that night, man, did you get effed over? The steep decline in drinking as a habit for young adults may be heralded as a moral victory of sorts, but its dire consequences for male socialization and dating outsourced to the antiseptic world of Tinder. Is Tinder still popular? I don't know. Already in evidence, a too predictable development. Even games have become less ritualistic because they are played online with headphones on. Innervated, isolated, overstimulated, no real bonding. And also, you can't say the gamer word with your friends.
Yeah,
gamer
like COD lobbies. I remember those, man. Those are great. Yeah. I spent a lot of nights with my friends from school playing on COD, and we'd like, anyways.
It's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true. I will argue that today's young men are not just experiencing the technological foreclosure of their own possible development into functional manhood, but are enthusiastically participating in it. They are subject to many of the same social expectations and psychological pressures as men before, yet they are simultaneously living through a warped form of traditional American masculinity that carries all the burdens and drawbacks of that tradition with few or none of its former benefits. By and large, men are still practically expected to be alpha, classically masculine, self-reliant, and stoic, yet they pursue these ideals without physical frontiers, with reduced access to nature and a diminished landscape of economic and social possibility, and with a wider ideological climate that is openly hostile to the very masculinity that is tacitly demanded of them. That's very true. American manhood has essentially become schizophrenic, historically determined on one hand, socially deconstructed and defenestrated on the other. I fundamentally would agree with that.
I had this. That's a great paragraph. That's true, because, it's like there is a cultural lag between this sort of new role of men and what is expected of them, and also like what the actual environment that is around us actually provides. It's sort of like, why is it like, I remember someone talking about in a group chat, I think it was a Capitalissimo, or was it Ham? I think it was Ham. They were talking about like experiences with librarians and book talk smut, like, that's like borderline grapey. And I'm thinking, like, why is that? Maybe there's some kind of like mechanism there where, any form of like erotic expression has been totally outlawed, besides like the most mainstream of like corn or whatever. But at the same time, you sort of like sublimate very like risque things within this like cheap, I think a lot of it's probably AI generated right now, erotica that's very complicated and problematic, quote unquote. And I think like maybe there is a thing there where it's like you tabooize this greater social world around you, because then you could sublimate those things into fantasy. And I think, like, you know what I mean? It's sort of like, I guess the male equivalent would be some kind of like trad cottagecore thing, or like a lot of anime or whatever. And I think like a lot of real sentiments, as they become impossible in terms of what is outside of oneself, they dwell in a fantasy world inside. And so it's like, why? Because people are like, what are all these like blue hair librarian like libtard types? Why are they like indulging in this like very problematic smut? It's like, well, why? Why not? Because that's inherently that's like a coherent thing when you think about it, because it maintains that illusion, that fantasy, to sort of like have a very sterile and standoffish social world, or lack of a social world, if that makes sense. I don't know. Maybe I'm just like reading too much into it. Maybe it's just because, I don't know, like a lot of, I would have to talk to somebody who actually reads this stuff. I don't know. Like, why is this such a popular thing to have like werewolves, forcing themselves on you? I don't know.
It's a good question. One that we can spend hours talking about. I think that your our colleague / your other co-host has talked about this extensively, like the fictosexual aspect. I think a lot of it just has to do with the fact that, as what Gatz writes here, is just that men aren't allowed to be men and to swoon over and take their women as they please, in a lot of regards of what we would call sort of like that traditional raw sexual energy. And because of that, like we resort to the idea of being, thrashed or throttled, or however you want to call it. And it just resorts to fiction.
Yeah, I'm not saying that like women actually want this, by the way. I'm just saying that it is.
Some women do.
I mean,
I don't mean like fantasy animal, whatever weird shit. I mean, some do. They're weird, but like, I mean, I mean the whole like they want to be like swept off their feet and ravished. Like, that's true.
Well, but for a man that they desire, though, I think that's the qualifier. I think like a blanket statement that's very popular in the manosphere about like women want to be this. It's like, no, I think a man that they desire doing that. I think that's a very important qualifier. But yeah, it's basically what Sean Weiland says, the Jack Perfume Nationalist long-running topic of how desexualized the real world has become. The perception of adults having X has dropped from 60% to 30%. Oh, look at Dime. I'm assuming that's Dimes in the chat. Worrying. but that is a good point. No, but it is a good point that Jack Mason makes. It's just that, but no, I think that like there's obviously,
it's the Onion article. It's just like, guy you can't stand has a pretty good take or pretty good opinion on something.
No, but I think that like there is something to be said that like women's perceptions of dating and eros and so forth have also been fundamentally distorted as men's perceptions have. But I think that
where's the joke where it's like enough about women's rights, it's time for women's wrong?
Oh god. But I think like men, they do have a sort of like fantasy as well, but that's not tenable for real life. That's obviously like the fantasy of like the savior, but also like a motherly figure. Like a lot of like what men want, I think, is in traditional societies, they sort of are overcome because of, you know, that fantasy not being aligned with like what women actually desire. But I think now that's become so popular that's become like a marketing gimmick where, like, because let me tell you folks, like women don't exactly want to be like a trad, like mommy dommy type of thing where they're administering your life, but you have sexual agency over them. Like, no, it's like, I don't think women really desire. I mean, some women do, but like as a whole, though, it's usually that the sort of like rituals and the sort of practices that were there of ensuring that boys grow into men. A lot of it is a recognition of your own duty and sacrifice and so on and so forth. And I think like a lot of the sexual fantasization of gender relations has to do with being free of what is demanded of you. And so I think like both sides have a sort of like, both genders have a very distorted picture of what the other actually wants and what they truly want. And I think that's ultimately the problem of like what this article is trying to say, in so many words. Not to say that a mommy dummy isn't, desirable, but anyways, let's move on.
Before Gio decides to reveal any more of himself to chat.
No, but you know what I'm saying. It's like both people are sort of they channel the impossible through fantasy, and
and they expect the fantasy to somehow enter. What's the word I'm looking for? Become reality, or try to do it. And I mean, you can do whatever you have for fantasy won't always be equated to reality. And if you're big on pornography or cliterature, as some people like to consume, it will not be as good as you think it will be in real life, because some things are just impossible. Or guess what? Your body is not going to agree with whatever you want to do with yourself. So we'll carry on here. The emergence of American man. The roots of American masculinity are acquisitive. In very different ways. The ships that touched the shore at Plymouth and Jamestown, the colonies, farms, and towns and states that emerged from those landings were about acquisition and expansion. In Massachusetts Bay, manhood was discovered and reified in proportion to the godliness and virtue of the community. In Virginia was pegged to the sale of tobacco, America's first cash crop. Our masculinity begins with two strands, the Puritan and the Cavalier, already ancient pedigrees by the time of the founding fathers, in better, truer, and more essential terms than the Jeffersonian and Hamiltonian, which are later derivations.
Oh, it's very much the Apollonian and Dionysian. You could,
absolutely. American men were motivated by the promise of unlimited liberty, justified by courage, hard work, and self-reliance. Please see Frederick Jackson Turner, myself, Charlemagne, and Ryan Turnipseed covered that on American Spirits over on the OGC. A lot of this is going to be put out here. European masculinity, traditionally underwritten by the patronage of the aristocrat, operated within the entrenched hierarchies. European men achieved status by demonstrating the cleverness which they could operate within systems, acquiring honor and riches for themselves as well as the houses they served, as the courtier had done in the days of Machiavelli and Goethe. After all, even as the French Revolution broke the old nobility, it just as soon produced a new one under Napoleon with its own titles and ranks. By contrast, American men eschewed those systems. Their masculinity, as a consequence, was manifested in proportion to the distance from tradition, order, and even law, to some extent. I wouldn't go that far to say we were total lawbreakers. The European man was exquisitely determined. The American man was self-determined. That I would agree with. Men of the early colonial era struggled against the land, against scarcity, against hostile natives and imperious royal governors, and at that time's God and the devil, and at a deeper and less cogent level against themselves and their sense of guilt. Here were men trying to create new sources of authority along with new towns and markets on an alien continent. And there were other men too soon to follow, men from Africa, men from the Netherlands, men from Spain and from France, far afield, farther afield, all of them in its various ways engaging in politics, war, sex, trade, labor, violence, unsure whether their task was good or evil, unable to decide if they were powerful or powerless, master or slave. The relative autonomy of colonial politics forced men to look at their own unavoidable perfection. Far from established churches and courts, they knew themselves fallible and sinful. Perhaps the first men to colonize Mars will know how they felt, Lord willing. Low-born men from Europe or men born on the frontier could mint themselves as great by taking initiative and authority. The difficulty of life was such that not only to stay alive, but to contribute to the survival of the family or the settlement was a sign of special status. Individualism wasn't pure, unalloyed political ideal that these men were not natural libertarians. The individual was rugged out of necessity, and their capacity for action and self-direction served the nascent communities that they were helping to build and maintain. This is what the Cavalier and the Puritan had in common, and what defies kind of unified theory of historical American manhood. The enterprising individual served a communal ideal. One without the other was meaningless. I agree so far. I don't know. Anything?
No, but that's interesting, though, like the two different forms of masculinity. Like, one is very much the sort of Dionysian spirit of the frontiersman, the other being like an Apollonian administrator that had a form of masculinity, but nevertheless, it was very cerebral and it was very much about nation crafting, whereas the other one is more of, I guess you could say, the stereotypical one of the rugged man or the wild man that confronts nature. But they sort of play off each other because they both have a sort of like patriarchal current running through them, and they both, like this article is saying, had a communal impulse as well. I mean, one could not have existed with the other. America wouldn't have been explored, the frontier wouldn't have closed without one of the other. And so I think that both of them have their place. But nowadays, I think that, I mean, it seems that there is sort of like a breakdown of those archetypal and social roles, and that there is no like really defined, unless you're like defining it, I guess, on class lines, like even like Chad versus Virgin, or like like influencer, crypto scammer, Silicon Valley dude bro versus chud. Like, I don't know, like all of these distinctions no longer have the same place as they once did. I mean, I guess you could say that there's certain men are still considered quote unquote high class, but they certainly don't embody like a spirit of masculinity that you would find among these people. Because even, for example, the sort of Hamiltonian administrator was a man, he was a man of letters. He was an academic or a lawyer, as most American founding fathers were, but they still had a sort of, even like the British colonial officer had a form of frontiersman in him and had a sort of ruggedness, whereas you can't really say that about like most nebbish academics or people that move money around all day or whatever. I mean, even like the sort of degenerate coke-fueled excess of like the 1980s Gordon Gekko businessman, like that's sort of like an archetype that's like long forgotten. Like, I mean, certain people in Silicon Valley pretend that they're that, but I mean, when it comes to the movers and shakers of men in society, a lot of them, I mean, I know the term like longhouse gets thrown around a lot, but like, because I think it's more complicated than that, but like at the same time, yeah, you could say, for lack of a better term, like a lot of them do have a sort of demure spirit. And you especially find this in places like academia and law and, even politics. I mean, a lot of people, a lot of male politicians are like, especially are very subservient and demure, and, they have a spirit of a whore, you could say. It's a terrible thing to say, but it's true. It's true. A lot of politicians are hooas, so they don't have that sort of same spirit. I don't know. What would you say about this, Prude?
I mean, a lot of this is cribbed from both Albion Seed and Turner's essays. I mean, the individualism aspect of it, like a lot of that does come as a product of the frontier. I mean, like, because a frontiersman is vastly different than those that establishes themselves in coastal cities or areas that had already been formed. And so you get a sense of our sort of or a lot of our Jacksonian populism that still has a K line that you can track from Jackson to Trump still present. So I mean, like there's the communal ideal. Like I still serve something, and there was and to a lot of an extent until recently, because we've been so dispossessed either through immigration or through a purposeful semblance of culture being taken for granted. Like, you don't really notice things until it's being turned against you, because the default American cult, like it was like that subversive VB Knives tweet about like him bitching at like the term heritage American, like whatever you have your issues with the term, he is just like, well, everyone was the same thing back in the 1980s. It's like America was like 85% white in the 1980s.
You mean
like
Vanta Black Knives?
Yeah, Vanta Black Knives, Vishnu built knives, because all this shit. Well, because his knives are made in Pakistan,
Oh my
so
God,
I mean,
yeah.
screw that guy. As my friend Mr. Spader likes to say, oh look, another mildly subversive VB Knives take.
He really is a hideous caller, I gotta say. Yeah,
we truly love we if only we could create energy out of bad takes. Truly, the energy crisis would be solved. The energy of men like John Smith could not find full expression in insular England or in the spheres of action circumscribed by either old feudal obligations or the emergent bourgeois mores. Only in America, the New World, both the ideal and the real place, could these energies settle electron-like around the nucleus of a fragile but vigorous embryonic community. American masculinity remains true to this basic structure. You have to charter to make something new and far away from authority. You can build and rule your own domain. A lot of that still exists even to this day in places like Silicon Valley. This is why America was so suited to Republican government. It was not because the monarchical system of Britain was particularly bad. It was, in fact, widely admired and still is to some extent today. But it is because of the great-grandsons, the men who had carved their farms out of the forest of the generation that launched and fought the American Revolution, were fueled by the possibility of being their own lords. According to E. Anthony Rotundo in American Manhood, 1994, by the eve of the 19th century, a man's measure was no longer his family tree, but his bankroll. To some extent, yeah. It just, I guess it just depends where. Because I mean, if you're rooted somewhere in a long place, it is now a question of like, well, are you of good stock, and where are you buried? Not where are you from. So yeah, this is where he talks about the frontier. I'm going to pass this section here and the strenuous life out of the progressive era. So here we go. Masculinity 0 hour. The long era of frontier masculinity has, as we have discovered, had been appropriately long, drawn-out finale over the last 75 years or more. On the whole, new sources of self-making adventure have not been found. The crises faced by American civilization have largely been minor key and postmodern. This essay's historicizing exercise, talking about the Gilded Age and the frontier, leads us to the sober realization that rugged Emersonian young men have not been needed for quite some time, and the alliance between the masculine individual and the American community has withered away like an umbilical cord. The virtual replacements are self-evidently pathetic. Sports is more promising, but even the rise of UFC reflects desperation rather than confidence. A few million men gawk and gamble on a few dozen who know how to fight. Unreal competitions for fake goods on screens and parasocial participation and other men's masculinity are far from our moral embarrassments, and our continuing down path threatens to waste the physical and spiritual potential of millions of young men. The consequences will amount to several lost generations.
Yeah, it's all pseudo activities, really. I mean, that's, even with the UFC, like things have become subject to a form of refinement culture where there pretty much is a very streamlined process. It is an entertainment conglomeration. It's not like what the UFC was even back when we were younger with like the Ultimate Fighter, or God forbid, back in the mid 90s, how different it was. But now it seems like even these sort of masculine coded things are a particular spectacle, and they are subject to everything else in the culture industry. And so you don't have a lot of very wild moments, like even in professional sports in general, like in football, I guess it's the same, but I know even from hockey, it's very different. Not very different, but it still is quite different now. There's certain moments that you just can't, that are very few and far between, that are very special anymore. There's just a way of doing things that becomes so set by considerations of markets and networks and so forth that, you can't really have a lot of how should I say it? Black Swan events. So, yeah.
Yeah. And it certainly that's the case where a lot of things, like unless you're doing something yourself, it's gone. And also, like for me, it's really tragic because even the things that were meant to facilitate these like life skills or basic things, like things that would be required that every man should know, various knots and things like that. Like I may have hated it when I was a kid, in part because I think it was because my dad was always a scoutmaster. But like prior to Boy Scouts getting as paused as it is now, to where now women can be in it, and it's so many school marms running things. There's no real father figure running things. There's so much I learned from scouting as a kid and as a young adult that I still use to this day. I still keep my Eagle Scout card in my wallet. I'm proud of that. It's tragic what scouting has become, but like that used to be also a thing in which the masculine way in which you had leadership and bonding and ranks and hierarchy that no longer exists, like it's gone and it's been withered away to where, getting that Eagle Scout doesn't really mean anything, or having these sort of pseudo recreations of transitioning from being an older kid into being like a young adult, like going from like Cub Scouts to Boy Scouts, you had like your whole Arrow of Light ceremony and things like that. Like all these things don't really exist anymore. And once that disappears, like you're left with facsimiles of it, or you're left kind of just to grok some kind of, you're trying to recreate something in which you don't really know how it was even built in the first place. You're trying to re-engineer the social conditions that allowed these clubs and civic organizations and fraternities to exist. And even on, in universities, you still have the fraternity, and it's not like the frat bro party thing. Like that obviously existed, but like those were, at least for like an older form of like WASPy America, that was your like ethnic in-group kind of mafia type deal in which you would advance in life based on your connections and who was your fellow brother, depending on the fraternity you were in. And that doesn't really exist so much these days. And it's particularly tragic because like I would, as I slowly turn into the 30-year-old boomer, every Tuesday morning I have coffee hour with guys from church. And everyone, I'm certain they're all married men. I'm the only one who's not yet married, soon to be. And they're all talking about things. And my friend and I are both Eagle Scouts, and we're talking about that. And then apparently there's like Trail Life, which I think is some sort of scouting alternative that's more socially conservative and things like that, which I think is good. They were talking about running that. And I was like, oh man, it's very strange to be having that conversation and slowly realize, oh man, I'm going to be like the same dick that my dad was to somebody one day about hiking X number of miles or camping and things like that. It's very straight, but like those are the things that
Fox News sponsored Boy Scouts. It's Boy Scouts of America are too woke, so they got like the Fox.
But it is.
Yeah, I know. I'm just making a joke.
It's gay as hell. It's really tragic what that had turned into.
Gay hell Boy Scout. God. Oh man, back when South Park was, I don't know, South Park kind of never was, I don't know. Yeah, anyways.
I would really like to rewatch the first 5 seasons of South Park.
And first 5 seasons were great, but it's just
and see how much it's held up, Oh well.
They're always cringe edgelords, let's be real.
Oh, there's always going to be cringe edgelords cuz it's rewarded.
Yeah.
It's rewarded.
Well, that's like when we talked about a few weeks ago with Howard Stern.
Oh yeah,
like he was always like the cultural wrecking ball to like make way for what we have now. It's not that he was like edgy or subversive in that sense. He was just clearing the way for a new order, and you can't really say like, oh man, Howard Stern when he back in like the 90s and 2000s, back when he had the Whack Pack and Artie Lang, like Howard would be like totally shocked at all this woke stuff. It's like, no, he wouldn't be. Come on. He had porn stars riding Sabians. Like, come on. Let's be real. You know what I mean? Like, it's just the same thing about like South Park. Like, do you remember that book? It was called like South Park Conservatives. You remember that stupid?
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyways, it's a divergence. So moving on.
Do you
there was a book called South Park Conservatives. I'm not joking. Look this up. Like it's like, remember they're trying to do like the barstool conservative thing, and they realized like what a piece of shit that like Portnoy guy is. Like it's just
By Brian Anderson.
Yeah.
Oh. Of course he works for the Manhattan Institute policy research.
Oh, that's great.
Is he still around? I guess no.
I think he's still around.
No, he is. Or maybe he's still around. I don't know. Apparently he's with City Journal, of fucking course. South Park conservatives, the revolt against the liberal media bias, 2005. Man, this is about like 3 years ago at this point. There was a bookstore that closed down in my neck of the woods. And I went, of course, immediately for the current events, history, politics section of the bookstore, because it was like, we're going out of business. This is our last day. You can take whatever you can carry. And I brought bags for days. And a lot of them I ended up giving away as gifts. But I went through the politics section, and it was like going back in time, because it was like Maureen Dowd's Bush World 2001. And I was like, oh my God, like what a vanished time when the biggest shit we were going to talk about was privatizing Social Security and banning stem cell research because of like fetal tissue. It's just like, oh boy, those were the days. Those were the days.
I wonder if all those books held up, like in terms of their predictions.
Oh man, do you probably not, just because no one predicted 9/11.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Although I will say this, I'm so glad I went to that bookstore closing down, because that's where I got my copy of What Went Wrong: The Creation and the Collapse of the Black Jewish Alliance. And had I not picked up that book, I would not be doing Do You Even Read with Dimes? So
surprised they had a book like that there.
Oh, I mean, it was just sitting there, and I looked at it, and I was like, "Oh, I almost felt dirty for grabbing it, because I was like, wow, this is going to be really good." I like put it in my bag with this like shit-eating grin on my face. That book is really good. It's just not in print, so I own one of the few rare physical copies. Well worth your time. And if you want to listen to Dimes and I have a review on it, there's like a 5-hour recording that I put onto YouTube after like 3 years of it sitting on Odyssey. So enjoy. That being said, something of the historical conditions that gave rise to the American ideals of manhood is present again today, against the reality of the accelerating downward mobility. And there's a lot of like downward mobility porn that I cannot stand. And it is pornographic. A lot of people do like fetish size decline.
Well, yeah, like I mentioned, those YouTube videos.
Yeah, or that like Hickman gentleman.
Oh, that guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, did you see who's that one guy that like took a shotgun to the rooster?
Yeah, that too. Gorilla? Oh my God, that has been on my it's been on my timeline for way too long.
God.
Like I just saw someone meme on it today where it's like, the pizza burnt my like nephew's hand, so now meet my 12 gauge, and it's just like, is like I
the one with the crying soy jack and the shotgun and the rooster. Like it's just I think like if he would have like posted a picture of like one of those dispatch funnels, you ever seen this, Prude? Where like if you have a lot of chickens, you like put their head in, and it's easy to drain the blood, you know that one?
Oh yeah.
Like if he would have posted that, I think like it wouldn't have been memed on, because like
he just posts the shotgun.
The most performative masculinity, like male to male. It's like it's just
like I think the calling it MTM is very fitting. Like this is what I mean. So I'm gonna share this tab real quick.
Nephew.
Pizza for my nephew's hand. Say hello to my 12 gauge.
That's a good tweet.
That rooster is dead. I shot a cock. And it's just like, okay,
That's a good tweet. The pizzas. This pizza burned my nephew's hand. That's pretty good.
I will say this. I did not. I have very.
Did this guy get scammed by a giveaway recently? Too?
I don't know. I just liked the tweet. It was good. Or like the crying soy jack holding a shotgun pointing at the chicken. It's just like,
No, but
someone did the Giga Chad dialogue where it's like, you hurt my nephew's hand, it's time to die, and he's like, the blood of heroes is closer to God than all of the writings of philosophers. And I'm like, oh, this is. And I was like, to be honest, I'll be honest with you, this meme, this stupid shit was a nice reprieve from all the other awful crap on my timeline today.
Yeah.
So, as we like to say, we're on Twitter, so you don't have to be.
But like, if you would have posted like that funnel, or like, because like, you know, I mean, my grandfather always had chickens when I was growing up, and you know, sometimes you get a rooster.
Had he just posted that he was grilling the chicken?
Yeah, exactly. That would have been funny. But like, you know, sometimes like roosters, they become overtly territorial. That start pecking at the other hens, and so yeah, you got to dispatch them. But like, it's just such a stupid, like, it's like one of those. I know like a lot of like these, like, you know, feminist academics, a lot of them make a lot of hay out of it, but like, or rather a lot of coal. But like, you know, those like prom photos with like the dad with a shotgun or with a rifle or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like that stuff. It's like, if you touch my daughter, blah, blah, blah. Even though, like, we all know, like, as you've illuminated us last week, Prude, the expectation for prom night is that you actually are going to get laid. But like, it's a very, like, you know, schizophrenic and weird, like, particularly American thing. But like, I don't know, like, it's the same level of like performative masculinity, almost akin to like the cigar and the brandy and like the 1911 next to it, and it's like just something about it's like, ugh, you know, like it's so try-hardy and dense, and it's I mean, I don't know, I sounded like kind of like an elitist nerd, but like there's something about it that just, I think, gives you a pantomime of like what those aesthetics at least embodied in terms of like what that word even means, masculinity. But anyways, yeah, it's just, I don't know, something about that really irked people, the rooster thing. It's like, and it was like a stubby too. It wasn't sawed off, but it was like one of those like short barrel shotguns.
Tactical.
Yeah, tactical, but it's still got the wood, like a zombie apocalypse thing. Yeah, it's like, and he had the ammo belt, the bandolier too. Like, what? Like, just why? Like, it's, you could just grab the chicken and dispatch it normally and eat it and fine. But it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's very true.
I can't do that, sex freak, and I would. It is very F-slur behavior, but, you know, I can't say that on YouTube. It's just
fair.
I'm not knocking the guy. Apparently, he actually was in the military, but I don't know. Like, even like these operators on YouTube, like, I know like guys in group chats who actually were in the military, and I'm like, is it true that like like a lot of these operators, quote unquote, on YouTube, like what Sam Hyde was saying, a lot of them are probably fake, or they embellish their records. They go, yeah, of course. I mean, that's part of the grift. Like, I think like Jocko gets away with it because his record has actually been researched, and like, it's not from what I know. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on this, but apparently Jocko's record isn't embellished. But like a lot of these other guys, like there seems to be like a million. Like, how many YouTube operators were doming 14-year-old goat herders in Afghanistan in like 2009? How many of them could then be YouTubers? I don't know.
Well, it's not even like the military ones. It's also like all those, you know, to a point where it is so memeable, where it's like former pickpocket comments on like thief clips or whatever, and it's just like. We so like, but I mean, again, it kind of illustrates like this desperation for subject matter expertise and something that you can pass along. It's like, ooh, well, this guy is telling me how to do this, and it's just like, I'm just gonna like sneak my hand in and grab that wallet or whatever.
Like, I mean, YouTubers or former mafia YouTubers, they beef with each other.
Or like ye old lock picking lawyer and stuff like that. You know, it's things that come to mind for sure. So that being said, let's see here. Downward mobility.
Look at me. I did it ready.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
are they gonna do? Interview Paul Bernardo in prison? Like it's
Former, assaulter here. We're here to
Scarborough
comment on.
rapist. Yeah. Oh my,
Yeah.
oh my god.
What's the movie I'm thinking of? It's like former, assaulter here. We're here to comment on the 2002 hit film Irreversible.
Yeah, I just used to like watching Wes Watson until he went insane. Well, it was like masculinity grifting.
Many such
Like
cases.
then he starts like beating people up in a gym and.
Well, who else?
Anyways,
Who? What comes to mind? Mr. Jack Murphy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways.
The reality of accelerating downward mobility, the same acquisitive impulse can reassert itself as young men fall behind not just their female peers, but with men of earlier generations. Their own fathers and grandfathers, whose routes to middle class stability and family life are, in many cases, simply no longer replicable. Just as the Jacksons and Lincolns of the Old West had to start from scratch and forge paths on uncharted terrain, so too must today's young men carve a new order out of the desert of the post-neoliberal decay. Herein lies a way out of the proto-crisis. The creation of new values is, as we've seen in past ages, a masculine act in and of itself. That challenge may furnish a new proving ground for masculine virtues today. The daunting task of piecing back together, albeit in novel combinations, the scattered fragments of the American social and economic order, the finding of an honorable place for men and masculinity in it, could be this moment's moral equivalent of war. There is no way to undo history or technological invention. There will be no mass purging of phones or video games anytime soon, as desirable as that might be, at least for
That's
some.
unrealistic.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Like, I know some people that voluntarily do, like they either go to like a flip phone or like a dumber phone, but it's like you're a minority and you will be. It's also the difference between like the iPad baby versus the piano lessons baby. Like there will be a very distinct, I don't want to call it speciation, but like neurologically there will be.
Yeah, that's something that I read. Brendayev talks about this in The Bourgeois Mind. Like, he was referring to Spangler's book, Man in Technics, where technology itself, it just is a capacity, or technics itself is a capacity for means, and doesn't have a sort of ends in the sense of a teleology. That is something that he says belongs to the realm of the spirit, the realm of Golgotha, right? Whereas like now that we've confused means and ends, where technics itself becomes or its very limited rationalistic and materialistic form of self-mastery become ends, therefore it's sort of like really confuses the two. And no wonder we have people that are really being subject to a form of technomania through media, through distribution and imagery, through telecommunications technologies, and so on and so forth, because we've essentially confused means and ends. And so when we treat it as sort of like the end in itself, just this technical mastery, then we've of course like overcome our own nature, because our nature inherently, again, he's a Catholic thinker, inherently yearns for a form of teleology and a form of ends in its purest spiritual sense. But now that we don't have that, you have a lot of people going crazy because of it. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. Men do have to deal with and accept that the dangerous settings that have bred their cherished masculine archetypes of myth and history are gone, and to insist on restoring them fully would require a violent counter-revolution that could only end in hubris and destruction. I'm not going to say my honest opinion on that. So you're saying
what would that even look like, though?
So you're saying there's a chance.
No, what would that counter-revolution even look like? I mean,
gamers rise up. I don't know. I don't know. We'll find out. Maybe we'll live through it. Maybe we won't. We can no more expect frontiersmen to return to American life than we can expect the samurai to return to Japan or armed knights to return to the plains of Central Europe. No, but men do ride on iron ponies these days. Yet there are clues as to where we might look for our own summons to greatness. If the objective of America in the years ahead is to reclaim global leadership in its industrial production, that is, in making of things in the real-world economy, is to oppose the realms of bits and pixels, then new avenues for masculine exertion, discipline, creativity, and camaraderie may arise from such a project. Whether one is an Ivy League-educated member of the laptop class, or a tradesman who labors with his hands, a soldier in the military, a farmer in the heartland, or a mariner overseas, a Kansas City trucker, a Washington staffer, a Detroit auto worker, a Silicon Valley coder, or a Raleigh Durham lab technician, or a Texas wildcatter, men in varied roles will all have their parts to play in pushing forward the initiatives and innovations, great and small, that will rebuild the physical and social infrastructures that constitute the American nation. If the last era of masculinity was about putting a lid on masculine energies in the mid-century milieu that had already reached the apex of industrial modernity, the next one might be about reopening that lid and redirecting those energies back into meaningful and productive endeavors, where a man's individual ambitions and his acquisitive drives for material wealth and immaterial glory can be reconciled once more with communal and national flourishing. The last man may yet be transcended. That's a tall order.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, a lot of people at the helm don't have an idea what they're doing. A lot of people in the laptop class, I mean, they don't really have.
Well, we also just fundamentally live in different realities. Like
they no longer have a mythopoetic outview of like what their purpose of a civilization really is.
Well, it's also like the quote unquote laptop class, or the guy that can like work from home and afford to like get the hell out of Dodge and like move to Iowa or whatever. Like, he lives in a totally different reality than you and I ever will, right?
Oh,
in the same way, like the conversation about like, well, how do we reclaim this sort of like masculine drive or whatever? Like, that boils down to a very important question of just like, well, for who and who benefits, right? Like the whole cui bono thing, because at the end of the day, right, like, my idea of flourishing or being, or trying to attain the upper middle class stability of my parents and grandparents, like for a lot of people my age and younger, I imagine that's the goal. But if you're already from an area in which it's kind of already made for you, or perhaps you made better life choices, or you come from means or from money, or you're part of the various groups of people that live in the country that have grants and small business loans that are directly available to you and not necessarily people that look like me, then yeah, like it's going to be a vastly different thing. But also, I mean, just consider our media right now, like today. So for instance, arch enemy of civilization, what's his name now that I'm thinking of it? David French is who I'm thinking of.
Oh my
Arch enemy of civilization, David French. The odious conservative case for why you should roll over and die. And also a hit writer of other such cases, had talked about the imagery today of how images can be powerful. And needless to say, he spent more of his time talking about George Floyd than what happened to Miss Arena.
What?
Yeah.
Can you pull up these tweets?
I will read it to you. I'm not going to put it on screen. I will read it to you because a reminder, conservatives are awful. So David French wrote earlier today, he said that images are powerful. The image of Derek Chauvin kneeling on a dying man and his hand in his pocket, seemingly indifferent to George Floyd's life, was beyond enraging. Same with the images here. Their murderer's nonchalant, casual cruelty combined with her shock and horror are too much to bear. These images should spur reform. They should galvanize politicians to deal with the serial offenders in our midst. There is a need for systemic change. So to equate Derek Chauvin, who had a show trial for doing his job, because George Floyd overdosed, he was not murdered.
And his life's over.
And his life is over, and he's already been stabbed several times in prison. Comparing it to that savage, I hate David French, but again, it illustrates.
He's trying to do the centrist, like I'm above it sort of deal.
Yeah, which we all know.
Which I mean, we all do, but like he's doing it particularly odious. Like there was this one I retweeted.
Did you know that both sides are bad?
There was a take by the Evan Loves Wharf idiot, and I think it was my friend Berto who said you were going to hell specifically for this take, where he's like, people ignore like the violence done to like LGBTQ plus minorities and blah blah blah, but like this thing is like galvanizing people. It's like I don't know. It's a very I'm of course butchering what he said, but like the David French thing, like he knew like he could not, like he had to invoke the sacred figure of George Floyd, but like he had to do it in such a way that is like very just what's the proper word? Very like Cretinous and yellow-bellied, like, but he's like, I have to acknowledge it, but I can't acknowledge it too hard. So I'm going to remind you of a previous math mythic tale of institutionalized racism. It's like a very like way that like the old school conservative has to like get himself out from like the discourse to the right of him that he knows maybe in his, maybe not David French, but like other ones definitely know in their heart of hearts is a legitimate discourse, but they can't bring themselves to actually say it. So David French has to like find this workaround of like, hey guys, did you know a lot of bad things happen in society? I don't know what causes them. I'm not going to comment on what, but did you know that bad things are bad? Like, that's like literally like, like that's what he's doing. It's a game. It's a game. Whereas like someone like Evans Loves Wharf, he'll like just come out and say it. He's like, I don't give a fuck about these people because you know what, Black Lives Matter, blah, blah, blah. And like, you people are all racist, evil, Austrian Painter fans. So you know what? Fuck her. Like, or same with Tariq Nasheed. You know what? Fuck her. Like, that's a more honorable position in a weird way. You know what I mean? Like, it's a more honorable position to just totally step over it because like you're a hideous ideological ghoul. But David French has to be like, oh, well, like bad things are bad. Like, you know what I mean? In a way, David French is worse than a million Tariq Nasheeds or Evan Loves Wharfs. You know what I'm saying, Prude? Like, it's just, yeah. So, David French, hot take, bad things are bad. And are we
No way.
Are we going to talk about the context of what makes bad things bad? No, we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
Because, so it's just like, at least people like that are like real die-in-the-wool, like libtards, they're like not afraid to just say it. Like, I don't care about this girl. I mean, I care that she's Ukrainian because I hate Russia. I care that it's going to like, like the whole Norm Macdonald tweet about like, I know they set off a nuke, but what about the backlash?
Like, I know, yeah. I'm so
yeah.
fearful about the backlash against fearful Muslims, so.
Yeah. I know this isn't a super chat. Drew Pavlu's becoming kind of base. Is there hope for some libs? Not Drew Pavlu, because he's doing a very conscious grift there, and I don't trust him as far as I can throw him. And
so true.
That's all I'll say. I think Drew Pavlu, he's one of those, I think with, not to put my academic agent hat on too firmly, but you'll notice that like the regime will give a select few, they'll do this with Barry Weiss, and they'll do this with what's the Gamergate that's friends with Barry Weiss, the Decepticon, Brown and Woo. They'll do this with a select few like centrist liberals. They'll take them and they'll be like,
things have gone too far.
Things have gone too far. I kind of think that these like right-wing chuds, like maybe they got a few things right, but they'll do that as like a release valve. They'll do it as a release valve for certain libs to feel comfortable with going along with the other excesses of things. And so in reality, the people that still hold all of the power on the left are actually the far left. But they'll do it in such a way as to say that maybe certain people, they'll give you like a little bit of an out. You're not going to vocalize it very much. It's not going to lead to any like fundamental policy changes. But, like they'll be like, hey guys, things are going a bit too far. And they'll do that as a game. And a lot of these people are grifters. And a lot of these people love attention, love to hear themselves talk, as we all do. But it's like, there's something else going on there. So figures like Brianna Wu or Drew or Barry Weiss, I don't trust them. I think Anna Kasparian's a little bit different because I think when it started affecting her personally, then she's like, oh my God, what am I doing? I got mugged. What am I doing? Like it's, yeah, exactly. The leftist ratchet. Thank you, Sean Wineland. The leftist ratchet. Exactly. Yeah. But Drew Pavlu, he'll be like, yeah, man, all these like cucked leftoids, like they don't hate Russia hard enough. And you got to go volunteer. And because like, that's how you achieve real masculine power is to go and die against Russia. There you go. Like that's like the op right there. And there's going to be like a lot of these like neo-masculinity influencers on the political left to like convince you that like actually, yeah, you're kind of right. Like, I think the feminism's gone too far, so I'm going to use like 2015 talking points. Or like Brianna Wu, like, I think all the woke people gone a little bit too far, so I'm going to do a show with Richard Hanania. And it's like, that's what they're doing. They're just throwing stuff that's about like 10 to 15 years in retrograde. But to people that are on the left that have never heard an alternative, it feels like this breath of fresh air to see Brianna Wu or Richard Hanania. And then they'll turn around and be like, you know what?
I've been given permission to say that things might have gone a little too far.
Exactly. And then you have to support certain causes geopolitically. And it's basically just pulling the wool over the eyes of the average leftist. So like a lot of people on the far left, that they realize the game that people like Drew Pavlou and Anna Kasparian and Brianna Hu, they realize the game that they're playing. Like, you got to realize, like, I know we like talk about the left as like being like, you know, they're not all of them are like automatons or drones or whatever. A lot of them can be quite perceptive of to what the games that certain influencers are playing. And so I think that's why they're, you know, being viciously attacked by the far left, is because they realize like the Barry Weiss and the Brianna Wu thing, that's a game that they're playing. And that's a very like regime approved game. Now it may be beneficial to leftists in the long run in terms of alleviating a lot of general hostilities that certain people have to the far left, but they're defectors, and so therefore they're scum to them. And the thing is, like, it's really, I think, to subvert the right wing as well, because then, I mean, if you're willing to accept someone like Brianna Wu, then, you know, you're willing to accept anybody. It's just, you know, it's And then, of course, and then people like Barry Weiss and Brianna Wu, they then turn around to the right when they've already burned their bridges with the left, the far left. They'll then turn to the right and say, well, you know what? I have to become the leader now. Like James Lindsay. I know I didn't pay my dues, but I have to become the leader now. And I have to tell you what proper discourse is. And I have to tell you what elite human capital is. And the cycle goes over and over again. And all of a sudden, you've arrived at the Barry Weiss centrist containment zone as a take seller, and that's what happens. And people and you know and then all of a sudden you wake up one morning and people like James Lindsay and Richard Hanania and Barry Weiss are leading your movement. Base dissident right wing movement. The woke has gone too far, and they play both sides of the middle. Really, is what I'm trying to say. And I think Drew Pavlou, he's one of these types too. He's not. I mean, he's funny because like you could tell he does have a brain. He is kind of smart, you know. But I don't know. I just all of these people, all of these types are like I mean, come on. Brianna Wu used to like dox Gamergaters. Brianna Wu used to viciously go after you. Brianna Wu used to like get you deplatformed. And now you're like, because she's like, for YouTube purposes, she is going to be like, oh, I think the woke was building too far. Yeah, thank you, quite sots. And William F. Buckley is charge of the right wing now. Gio, 1957, probably. Yeah, if I was alive in 1965 or 1957, I'd be saying the same thing about William F. Buckley, I guess. But anyways, yeah, sorry, that was a long diversion.
No, I think it was good. It was good. You had a good rant. You had a good rant. We're on the last couple of paragraphs here, so we'll just wrap it up here. From San Juan Hill to Camp Mystic. Had ever a man, Henry James asked of his hero, Lambert Strether, in The Ambassadors, lost so much and even done so much for so little? James presents an alternate picture of American masculinity at the tail end of its vigorous formative stage. Melancholy, Europeanized, not yet unmanly, a man haunted not only by the beauty of Paris, but also the life he chose not to lead, the adventures he declined to have. The cost of inheriting a well-built civilization is that one cannot derive identity from any claim to having built it. To inherit is a completely different kind of action, one that demands self-cultivation, reflection, and gratitude, and only then can the inheritors build, expand, and innovate on what has been given to them. Masculine virtues and material prowess are, in their purest form, good. In times of real necessity or threat, they are the highest good. In times of domestic peace, however, those energies and primal demands must be intelligently sublimated. And the one constant beyond the historic or geographic constraints and pressures that determine the outlines of the general type might be the very deep constant, the biological and perhaps even metaphysical or God-given constant, the deep truth of what it means to be a man in the best and highest sense, the willingness to bend, to sacrifice one's individual energies, appetites, desires towards the need of the whole, not for the sake of martyrdom, but out of deep love of family, home, friends, the species, life itself. In the process of finishing this essay, I read about Scott Ruskin, a 26-year-old U.S. Coast Guard rescue swimmer who personally saved 165 people from the catastrophic floods that engulfed Camp Mystic, an all-girls Christian summer camp along the Guadalupe River in Kerr County, Texas, over the 4th of July weekend. Such an extraordinary acts of virtuous chivalric masculinity recognizable to our ancestors near and far in America or anywhere else are possible at any moment at any time. The parameters of our modern life are not so strict that the more universal elements of manhood might not appear again. What I've called the proto-crisis is nothing more than looking in the mirror and seeing that there are frontiers within as well, even if certain obvious physical frontiers have disappeared. It is for the current generation of young men, as it was for my own 10 or 15 or 20 years in the past, a bit harder in the sense that the old rituals of masculinity have disappeared. But it is also fair to say that men have more time now to destroy themselves than through any of the obvious means: porn, video games, gambling, AI girlfriends, whatever it might be. We are equally in possession of enough time to create new values, open up new frontiers, and actively choose our activities. As cultures of affirmative masculinity disappear, the art of masculinity begins again. Man, that's not a bad essay, I don't think. I mean, we did skip over some history parts, but I thought it would be important to not... We'd be here all night if we read the whole essay. I think this is the thing that you see. Everyone, regardless of whatever camp or group or tribe or whatever particular self-identifying that you want to put yourself on Twitter, this is something I think everyone kind of talks about. Or like the old rituals, the old barriers, the old... what's the word I'm looking for? Rite of passages have more or less all disappeared. And so you're left to kind of create your own. And we're in a place where we have to forge our own for sure. Whether it's through clubs, associations, fraternities, people who, will deliberately join groups. Like there's Dallas has a pretty big fencing scene because a lot of young guys are trying to do something that's physical that they can still do with maybe their work schedules and the rest. And so, but I mean, also for us, our masculinity can be found in the heroes that we make of them, whether that's Daniel Penny or Scott Ruskin or whoever that personally comes to your mind, philosopher, academic, physical prowess, and hero. Carlyle's right that there are different types of heroes. Yeah, right. There are different types of heroes.
Sam Munchnick. Yeah, he was the really first one of the first luminaries of professional wrestling who was actually an academic and a strongman. So he actually wrote about Elan Vital and health and philosophies. He was a Bergsonian, but then he became a professional wrestler. Sam Munchnick. He's a very am I getting that pronunciation right? Yeah. Sorry, no, not Sam Munchnick, the promoter. George Hackenschmidt. Sorry, George Hackenschmidt was one of the first popular professional wrestlers who also wrote books about esoteric health and Elan Vital. And George Hackenschmidt.
There you go.
He was a bodybuilder. He basically invented modern, a lot of techniques that bodybuilders even use to this day. And there you go. And is that what you're saying, Prude? Yeah.
Well, I think that the one big takeaway from the essay, but also I think that everyone, regardless of whatever side or whatever you want to call yourself, have all kind of come to the basic conclusion that the age in which we live in is in desperate need of something new. And at the same time, something that we need to rebuild for ourselves. And some people have done that through, the upsurge of Roman Catholicism and things like that, or people who are trying to get their way into fighting or building things. I mean, when you are forced to look inward, people have to take stock of themselves. Like, what can I do? What can I create? Can I become an artist? Can I become anything? And I think that the art of masculinity, and art by saying like a natural science or an artistic practice, it raises an interesting question of what we're going to become or what we're going to do, because you have to tend to yourself and wonder, will this work? And then this also has to come with the cold, calculating aspect of what we would call sexual fitness, right? Like, are you going to get married or reproduce or however? And so as our various, societies rapidly change due to immigration that has been thrust upon us, even though we didn't want it and didn't ask for it, we're also going to have to adapt and survive in living with, in a heterogeneous society, lest we get that massive amount of purges or deportations, Lord willing, but I'm not holding my breath. And so there was a tweet today that I had reposted. This guy had done this long thread about the housing market, and I think it's in like the Texas area, in the DFW area specifically. Let me go find it real quick.
Oh, it's becoming Canada-fied, apparently.
Yeah. Oh no, it's super bad. This came from a guy named Blake Cressis, and he had talked about. It was from some post, I think it was on Instagram or something, but it was like, Gen Z is done waiting. Thousands are teaming up with their siblings to buy homes together, splitting down payments and mortgages because solo ownership is a fantasy in this economy.
They do that in Europe, yeah.
Well, here in America too. So I saw this post on Instagram about Gen Z teaming up with siblings to buy their homes, and he had said the comments were flooded with third world migrants arrogantly saying like, Americans have finally discovered joint family living, or this is how we Arabs, Indians, and Mexicans have lived forever. And now he says, listen, I understand the importance of tight family unions and family compounds on many acres with individual homes has always been a very attractive idea to me. Has for me too. This, however, is very different from the extended family living as bugs squished together in a single family house. And he says, this is the way of the third world and has become increasingly common in America as we've imported these people to our neighborhoods. You can experience this yourself almost anywhere, but if you want an obvious picture of what I'm talking about, look at Irving, Texas. And if you want to look at the housing market there, go cry. He says, because of the affordability crisis, this is what I retweeted, which is almost entirely caused by mass migration, both legal and illegal, the subsequent inflation, depression of wages, and housing scarcity, young Americans are being forced to assimilate to these third world practices to survive. God. We are a society that has moved past this and become an advanced, prosperous nation where home ownership was attainable for the single family. Thanks to immigration, however, as well as a myriad of other things, but immigration is the right-wing panacea, and rightfully so. We are literally regressing back into the pit. The quality of life is dropping to the standards of the global South. The posterity mentioned in the preamble of the Constitution, anyways, it did not mean we had to adopt the practices of India to survive. I think he's got a point there. And I mean, Dr. Garrett Jones talks about this in the cultural transplant, that like whoever you bring over, like, yes, they'll assimilate to the majority culture, but also the majority culture assimilates to some of their practices as well. And you've seen this throughout our waves of immigration in the United States, particularly from Italy, especially. But now it's the same way here in various parts of the country. It's just a disaster. And it really does go to show, like, this is the insanity that we're having to put up with. And it's like, well, if we're going to, the real strive for masculinity is like, how do you rise above an openly hostile world, both de facto and de jure, for your existence? And I think that's where the art of it's going to be. And I think it will come from, there will be millions of experiments of groups, organizations, strats, housing.
Especially as like millennials don't have a lot of kids. Like that's going to be, remember I had that thread, remember about the polyamory people that are living together, like how that'll be more common. Well, like, and we could sort of like laugh at it, but really, I think like there will be like a sense of like millennials will form their own sort of like weirdo sort of family structure, like the Friendsgiving thing, like that's a
lot of that feels like a uniquely urban phenomenon. I could be wrong.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So only time will tell, and I mean, we'll live to see it. And my children will live to see it. Which, I mean, I'm gonna try my damnedest to make sure they have a network, both a family, but also like friends and my parish life as well, to make sure that isn't the case. Because like, oh man,
well, that's the thing. Like, if you're a millennial, right, and your parents are getting older, they might die one day. You don't have any siblings, and
what do you do? Or yet, can you afford to take care of your parents? Or are you going to just
Yeah.
barely make it by to send them off to a home?
Yeah, if you have both parents. I mean, a lot of people don't. I mean, if you just have, so it's just you and your mother or whatever, like it's tough, man. Yeah, and you didn't have a lot of like integral friendships, you know? Like
Yeah.
it's you sort of just drift through life. And a lot of us are there, man. Like it is a scary thought, you know. I even think about it sometimes, but it's like, what are you gonna do? You know? So maybe there will be a sense where people will like millennials and zoomers that don't really find people, they'll sort of band together and like this sort of hovel uh you know type of existence. Or maybe like if you have a sibling and like you have your wife and kid and he's got his wife and kids, it's like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna have to like go half season on a house or whatever. And all of a sudden we're back into these sort of mixed family dwellings instead of the nuclear family. So out of sheer economic
that's
necessity.
not going away anytime soon, I don't think. And a lot of people are operating that way, or they're reinventing the co-op in order to functionally keep themselves and their family and friends either employed or living together. So like they're surrounded by people they trust.
Like, I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, your ancestors did that, but like,
Yeah.
maybe we will have like a resurgence of sort of like tribalism type of thing where
it's not coming. It's not going away. That's definitely gonna stay.
No, but like your kin lives in the same dwellings or network of dwellings and sort of like, or the same apartment building. And so who knows, maybe it's like, and like I say, like a lot of it will be, I think, packaged in sort of degenerative sexual practices, like the polyamory type of thing, the open ethical monogamy, blah blah blah. A lot of that will probably be just a foil to cover over economic anxieties. In a way, it's sort of like what Derek Jensen says about like, you know, a lot of progressive social things are just to cover up an even more insidious form of oppression. And like, you know, he mentioned like oh, free love. Oh, actually, that's even more oppressive in a weird way than like the sort of patriarchal norms of the past. Or like he mentioned a certain group that's overtaken women and gays. And he's like, well, that form of this sort of civil rights regime infiltrating female-led spaces and so on and so forth. It's like, it's the same thing. It's like the polyamory thing is marketed to you as this like sexy new alternative, but really it's to make you comfortable with certain tumbling economic and socio-political conditions. And so, and the thing is, like, I don't necessarily, I mean, to me, it's wrong, but in terms of why people would do it out of survival, I wouldn't necessarily look down upon them. I think that times are getting tough, and not that I would choose that, obviously, but like, it's, yeah. I'd honestly rather live in a van in the woods, honestly, than super gay. Yeah, I mean, well, a lot of people will start living in a van in the woods or a van by the lake, that Chris Farley thing. A lot of people are. And
that's true.
Yeah. So, but the point being is that they will take things on the social, mimetic, and cultural level, and they will distort it and they'll cultivate a sort of fundamental distortion about what is hip and sexy and cool, and they'll market it to you, but really that's to mask a lot of material conditions. I know that seems like a tanky Marxist, anti-woke tanky thing, but there is a truth to that analysis. And if you're like in an inner kitty squat, where there's free love, you're still living in a slum. But you don't care that you're living in a slum because it's like marketed to you as sexy and cool and revolutionary, man. Like we're like a micro Paris commune. But really it's all you're living in a slum. You're living in a flop house. You're pizzanteria, as my people say. And that's the thing though, is that, that's why they market to you various lifestyle things. But I belabor the point. I'm sorry, Prue. I belabored the point.
No, I mean, yeah. I definitely understand I get it. And again,
like Connie in King of the Hill. You know, like
go live in the doghouse with Bobby.
She'll probably end up with Bobby, though. Yeah, I can imagine she's gonna end up with Bobby.
We'll see in the second season of this sequel series, because it's I'm in college and I'm trying to keep my parents happy by being with this guy, but I'm also in a ethically non-monogamous relationship, and now that that's all blown up in my face and I've hurt myself, it's okay, Bobby. Now I really want to be with you. And it's just like, I hate to sound so like internet misogynist, but it's like, wow, what a strangely nice. It's nice to see modern woman represented accurately.
It does rise up like a manosphere thing of. Like,
it really does, and I really don't like it.
I hate it. Yeah,
but it's just like, oh man, I kind of feel it,
But like, I mean, this is not reality. I mean, the vast majority of women, they're not going to like go for this. I mean, I don't know. It's sort of like everybody has a power fantasy. Like, I guess that is a female power fantasy, and men have their own power fantasies as it relates to eroticism. But oftentimes in real life, those things do not work out unless you live in a very particular type of lifestyle and community that facilitates such things. And even then, it's never going to work. Like the whole polyamory thing, or like a man being sort of like a Don Juan. Like, oftentimes it will only lead to like frustration and heartbreak. And it's not going to. My power fantasy is having a lot of guns. Well, that's actually attainable if you have a lot of money. Apparently, the gun market is doing too well.
A lot of guns,
yeah,
even on a budget. I will not comment further.
They say that the gun market's pretty affordable still in America.
Yes, it is. So
yeah.
I wouldn't.
Is ammo still really expensive, or
it's gotten cheaper in the last couple of years?
Oh, there you go. I mean, I knew like
it's
funny.
It just depends
as soon as
on
Trump
what
gets elected. It
just depends. It just depends on what you're shooting. It just depends.
It depends on like the particular lot number of the Cold War era Korean ammo that gets imported. So
there's more.
Oh wait, apparently a lot of ammo isn't getting imported in America from like those former Soviet bloc countries. I heard this. Is that true?
It was for a while. We did have the war did bring on some changes during the Biden administration. Not much has been said on the like gun rights ammo front since Trump's gotten into office, but it's only been like 8 months and some change. So I mean, we'll see. We'll see.
So you're telling me that the ammo prices spiking was basically a government?
No, I mean it was also a natural rush during COVID.
Oh yeah, true.
Like anytime that there's a riot or a shooting, or anytime Democrats talk about gun control, like say whatever you want about the Second Amendment, there's some valid critiques about like gun bro culture. Do not get me wrong, because clearly the whole Second Amendment's meant to bring down like tyrannical government. Like, I'm sorry, y'all didn't like do shit during COVID. Like tactical boomer, hate to be that guy. Like,
that was like Eddington was about what if people actually did something during COVID.
Yeah. And I still want to review that movie.
Yeah, we should.
After Steins Gate. Gate. But we'll get to it. But oh well.
You saw Asbatani AK-47 ammo in a gun store.
It's over.
Oh my god.
It's over.
It used to be that you get like, Korean Cold War era, or like, I don't know, I think Afghanistan had a lot of that. Like a lot of former Soviet satellites.
Didn't see any of that shit come back. Not that I would want it either.
No, but a lot of former satellite states used to flood American markets with ammo, but now with the Ukrainian war, I guess like, a lot of stuff has just been
like you can get a pretty good 9mm for less than like $600 at an academy. Like, it's not, you guys don't have to, you're not going to break the bank to get a good carry weapon.
Yeah. I think it was Russians with Attitude that said the Ukraine war, I think they said this like back in 2022, the Ukraine war has been a G-word-eyed for like Soviet era equipment, like tanks and things like that. Like, yeah, they just like ran through like decades upon decades of production that came out of those
like
Soviet
that's not
factories.
like yeah. This is I literally just went on Academy.com and I looked up 9mm. It's not bad. It's a lot cheaper than I remember it. It's cheaper than a few years ago.
Where are you in the 9mm versus 45 ACP debate, Prude?
I don't. Well, I carry a 9mm. It's so I don't know. I like both, but I mean I have more experience firing my Glock than I do. I don't own. Well, I do own one, but like I own sort of like a 1911 kind of like knockoff type deal. But like I don't.
Oh, yeah.
It's not my carry weapon. That's the Matt wants to go shoot with my dad and the range on the land and blow a lot of money in a quick succession.
That's just a gimmick, Sonny. Here's my 45 ACP.
Two world wars
through the trenches.
Yeah. Well, I don't really do a lot of that because
that's just a gimmick, Sonny. We only had an M4 and an ACOG. That was a great video. The Fuds throughout history.
If the next time you come to America, Gio, this is why I want to do a live DA episode somewhere, like at a theater or a bar.
Yeah, like the Red Scare Girls do that.
Well, not just that, because it's like, oh, cool. Now I can like grab Gio by the neck and like take him to a gun range and like treat him to a great experience.
That's just a gimmick, Sonny. I love do Fuds actually exist?
Oh yeah, Fuds are real.
I think Canada is like the land of Fuds. By the way,
Fuds are real.
Yeah, Canada's like we have like yeah, like that. I mean, the Conservative Party is like the Fud Party in Canada. They're like, as long as I don't take my shotgun for skeet shooting, it's like that's all I care about. My shotgun for skeet shooting. I can only have 3 shells in there. Oh, it doesn't matter. I don't need more than that. Yeah, it's true. Canada is the land of Fuds. Anyways,
there's a Jimmy tweet out of that. Canada, the land of Fuds. Not a bad idea.
Yeah. No, because like that was like I think Fortisax was talking about this. Like, what is such a loser argument that is from Canada, especially now recently with these like local police departments going nuts, like that guy in Hamilton.
You're not allowed to defend yourself. The best defense is just to comply.
Yeah, that's what a police chief said in Hamilton. But okay, there was the one in Vaughan where the guy he fought off a guy entering his house with an illegal handgun with a knife, and they're going to charge him. He's going to get off, but like the pain and suffering of actually like being charged is insane. And there's this other case in Hamilton where they want this guy, the city council, they want this guy to get rid of his home security cameras because it's
you're noticing.
They said because it's pointed towards the street. But you can film in public. And it's like, it's insane. And then the police chief saying that, well, you can just give in to their demands and like wait for the police to show up. And it's like, I think like that radicalizes like Leafs more than anything else.
Radicalizes me just to hear it. Like,
yeah, I know, but you're in Texas though. That's
well, does it matter? Well, I mean, well, that's not true. I've had only once in my life have I ever drawn my firearm in the name of self-defense, but like
really?
But yeah, but I mean the thing is like
was it like an Amy Main like Andy Worski situation, or was this legitimate?
I'm not disclosing it because there's just because like there's some info there, but like my point being though is just like I don't have my sheriff and my chief of police isn't telling me I can't have a security cam. My chief of police isn't telling me like comply, like, and I don't live in a high crime area. I mean, like, yeah, like there's domestic disturbances and there's occasionally something terrible happens, but like I live in a pretty white area still. Like things are not that bad. And it's just like, yeah, the worst that happens is like some drunken retard or a DUI or something happens like that. Like never to a point where there's a shooting or anything. Or a mass wave of robberies or ethnic gangs of Indians like burning shit down in retaliation for something. Like I don't have that problem yet.
Well, there was like firing over the bridge. There was another incident where like these Indians were, and I'm like, how do they get a Kalashnikov in Canada? Like, I know some.
I wonder how.
They're like, well, and then they reported that like out of the 15 guns they had, like 10 of them were illegal. I'm like, oh, there you go. Like, I know that I remember indigenous reservations, like during the Oka crisis, they had like Kalashnikovs. I'm like, how do you get that in Canada? Because even back then they were banned in Canada.
Well, I imagine that you got them through some kind of
American.
Well, either the Americans or even the what's the word I'm looking for? The Chinese, the Ukrainians.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true. I mean, of course, like there's not a lot of scrutiny with reservations, but like, it's no. I'm like, how do these Indians get an AK-47 in Canada? And I'm like, well, yeah, it's illegal gun. So, or did you see that one video? The fishing route, the salmon trough. They're just like, because it's illegal in Canada to fish when the salmon migrate to keep their numbers up. And they're just like on the side of the river, just grabbing them, like, the bears with honey, like some cartoon. Mm-hmm. And it's like, anyways, I shouldn't say more or else, I'll get a Human Rights Commission case. No, but the guy, they totally get rid of his ring camera.
So frustrating.
Yeah. No, but like the point where they're telling you not to defend yourself against home invasion.
Well,
that's like
the same thing with like the camera thing. It's just like, oh, so this is not this. You are not allowed to defend yourself. You're not even allowed to notice. You're not allowed to have visual evidence of what your own lying eyes will tell you.
Yeah.
Like, good God.
And then it's funny because I think it was CTV or whoever, they like interviewed the guy's neighbors in Hamilton, and they're like, yeah, we're fine with it because of course, like, who isn't going to be fine with a security camera? And it's just like in case something, because like they were like in this neighborhood, because people don't realize this. Hamilton, not a very good place. I like a lot of people from Hamilton. I like Hamilton, but there are certain parts of Hamilton that are dangerous and seedy. Maybe not to the extent of like in a major American city, but like it's getting there. So this area of Hamilton, it's part of the Rust Belt, economically depressed. There's been a lot of B&Es and there's been a lot of like carjacking. And so his neighbors were like, yeah, of course we want someone with a camera. And, there you go.
Who wouldn't?
Yeah. But no, I don't think it's named after Alexander Hamilton. It's named after another Hamilton.
I'm sure someone of...
I don't think a Canadian city would be named after...
Yeah, no, I'm sure it is named after a different Hamilton of a British... of his Majesty's government origin. But with that, let's head on to the...
need super chats. What are you guys doing?
To the super chats. Because the episodes on the 23rd and the 30th will be the Steins Gates one. So the next week is Dealer's Choice for Gio. So you can send your super chats via Entropy now that that's finally fixed and working. And that is the pinned comment in the YouTube live chat as well as in the description. And of course, you can send it through, the YouTube super chats or just by supporting us, as low as $2 a month over on subscribestar.com/theprudentialist or patreon.com/Giant Art Productions. So we'll get started with the YouTube super chats and then we will move on to Entropy.
Now's your time, fellas.
No guns are illegal on stolen land. So true. I like that line. I like that line.
Yeah, but
no guns are illegal on stolen. Yeah, but that's so left coded though. But
you got to be indigenous to say that. But like,
it's easy to take for granted where I live. Very low crime. So cool, dude. so
true.
Cool. So this is, I guess, was the news. Hey, Belarus violated Poland's airspace and there's some alerts going out. The war is expanding and we all cease. I just want you to know I'm glad I spent it here.
Nothing happening. I think that it was probably an accident. They're not gonna.
Yeah,
I hope not, but I don't see an Article 5 situation into this.
We'll see. There was the Polish airspace was closed with Belarus in part because of training exercises. I think that there was some stuff that was known about there. So Wingman 45 just became a channel member. Thank you, sir. Greatly appreciate it. You get to see all the gaming streams and any video essay content I put out early. So thank you. I appreciate that. Keeps the channel going. Kisswax Chatterack says, Gio, you are my favorite Syrupian. Oh, Maple Leaf. I like that line. That's a good one.
European. That's a good one.
Syrupian. That's good. I'm gonna hold on to
Thank
that
you,
one.
Quizats.
That's
Chat
very
rock.
kind of you for $20. That's very generous.
$20.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
That's very
good.
true. That's good. European.
How was our leadership tonight, Prude? Weren't we competing with Dave?
Dave went live a little while ago earlier.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm sure, but I mean, he hasn't been on for a while.
Yeah,
so it's true.
Well.
All right, so carrying on the YouTube super chats. Jay sends £5. Said I had a dream where I took Prude on a car trip around the famous churches and castles of East Anglia in England. What mean? When you're next time in the homeland? Oh man, I don't know when I'll ever go back to England again. It's been 14 years. But I would love to go back to England. There's so many churches and other places I would love to visit.
Influencers.
But I'm flattered you dreamt of me, but also weird. But if I ever end up in England again, I'll make an announcement and I'll be sure to take you up on your offer. Big Ben for $10 says people need to stop worrying about young men and worry about their daughters instead.
Daughters.
Do we mean daughters or do we mean the slang for the crazies?
You mean like George Romero's The Crazies?
No, I'll let him answer. But I do agree that we have to worry about, as I jokingly kind of referred to, Syrupian better than Leaf. Yeah, I did read. I just read your super chat, so don't worry. Daughters. All right, Big Ben. Thank you. Yeah, I agree. There, for as much as we talk about the issue of men and masculinity, there needs to be a renewed emphasis on how to raise daughters. I agree. And that's
true.
That will be a challenge going forward. I wish more men would write about that from the perspective of being a father. Sadly, we focus too much on
it's really hard to write about that. I mean, that it doesn't.
Well, yeah, because it fundamentally would say in order for this to succeed, I have to do things that would be considered abhorrent. But that's the YouTube super chats. I'm going to go on to the entropy ones. Serbian Cat says these incidents are so aggravating. Not only is murder disgusting and saddening, but what's the end result of all this? Like, cool, Fox News is showing FBI crime stats. My normie MAGA fans are radicalizing, but nothing tangible will come. It's just demoralizing at this point.
No, exactly. I mean, it is a demoralization at the end of the day, unless there is a serious, like, that's what I mean. I think you don't expect a lot of elite avenues of power to really give up on the things that they've been cultivating for multiple decades. I mean, I'm sure people within the Trump administration are frustrated, and I'm sure maybe even on the local level in red states, things might get marginally better. Although I would say that a lot of cities in red states are controlled by very biased and very ideologically and otherwise, driven, committed progressives. So it's a very frustrating thing. I mean, it's a sense where the system works against you from actually dealing with a lot of people that just probably shouldn't be in this sort of free range, polite society. Yeah, it's very difficult.
It's frustrating. And like I said at the beginning, I'm not a DA. I'm not someone who's going to be writing policy on judicial things, but I mean, it's do the good that you know how to do, and the good that you don't know how to do will be revealed unto you. And I think it just kind of requires us to recognize that we can participate in this gruesome spectacle, or we can try and do something different. But I get it. I understand its frustration, but also at the same time, like the kind of conversation where Fox is doing this, or
true.
Like these things would have been unheard of even 5 years ago.
But at the same time, like Kyle Rittenhouse's GoFundMe was cut. GoFundMe?
It wasn't just like the cut question. It was also the firemen and such who had donated to his campaign were doxxed, and like these kinds of things. I mean, it's the same thing in Britain too about raising the colors and all that jazz. Like, yeah, there is, for lack of a better phrase, like, yeah, a lot of this is occupied territory.
That's what I mean. Like this guy, he has a GoFundMe, and will his get cut? Will people that donate him be doxxed? Like, no, it's not
because we live in a two-tiered, racially charged system that hates whites.
No, maybe it would be bad optics. Maybe, who knows? I mean, maybe they would cut
I hope that they do.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I hope they do. Honestly, you're giving money to
between all of the PPP stuff, like we mentioned, the $22 trillion, all that it has led has been to people being sacrificed on an altar of diversity and egalitarianism. And enough is enough. I think it's safe to make that abundantly clear.
No, exactly. It's ridiculous. It's there's no cope, no motivating factor, nothing. The guy was insane, and he saw this defenseless girl and he attacked.
And deliberately said that he got her for being white.
I got that bit. Yeah. And
like,
there were people around him that tried to, they weren't going to restrain him, but there was there were some people that went to try to help her, but there's a lot on that bus that didn't. And they just sat like it was an everyday occurrence. And that's what's so scary, really. That is like...
What's that god-awful statement from Sadiq Khan that's part and parcel of living in a big city? It doesn't have to be. Like, as much as that gets memed on, like, we don't have to live like this, but, like, we shouldn't. And the fact that so many say that, like, we just have to accept it, it's frustrating.
Well, there's a supreme impotency in that, obviously.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But what if somebody did step in when he was going for his second plunge?
Well, then we know exactly what would have happened. In the same
Daniel
way that,
Penny
like,
would have.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, there you go. Although I don't know. I mean, this case is pretty cut and dry. I mean, it's pretty...
Well, it's cut and dry across America. We just don't talk about it due to things like the Community Relations Service,
right?
Or because everything is meant to ensure that you cannot talk about the thing that your ancestors knew back in other parts of the country. It's just like, okay, like these, I'm trying very hard not to.
No, but even with video evidence, like we were, like Night Owls was saying about Kyle Rittenhouse, like there are still people in America that believe he like randomly killed 3 black people, 2 black people. Yeah. And there's like 40K video evidence, 4K of Kyle Rittenhouse, and it's just like people still believe that narrative. It's incredible. But like, I mean, you can't like judge these things off like, frankly, low information people. Although you really could, because people they say that like, well, only elite opinion matters and the average perception of people doesn't matter. I think that's only half right. There's a certain extent to which popular opinion actually does still matter. I mean, elite opinion obviously weighs out in the long run, but if a lot of people have a significant distortion about what they're believing. Sorry, I meant 4K video, not 40 Rittenhouse 40K faction. Oh my God. No, but if a significant amount of people believe in something, that obviously has a power to it,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Belief is a powerful weapon.
Yeah. But anyways, any more super chats?
Yeah, there's a few more. I just we spent some time on Serbian cats. There's a few more on entropy. We'll carry on here. Quite a few more. Melon says the Lord of the Rings scene with the ghost. You need more men, Aragorn. The ghosts are millennials. They can still hold their oaths fulfilled. So many of them think they're beyond redemption. I would definitely agree with that.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'm 30. As one commenter said yesterday on the last DA, I'm 30. My life is over. The podcast. That was funny.
Yeah, I'm 30 years old. My life is over. I must podcast.
Yeah.
I have no job and I must podcast. I don't know. It's funny because it's just like...
true. That's true. Okay, I'm not going to counter signal that.
You heard the man.
What are you gonna say?
It's just like it's I don't want to say it's oddly relatable, other than like it's strange to do this on the side because like I've done the math as to how much like hours per like ad dollar and subscribe starter. Like it's very strange to do that because I'm a spreadsheet monkey by trade, I guess. But it's like it's just kind of funny to think about like, oh yeah, it's like I'm employed, I do all these things, and I mean, because like insurance is kind of a necessity on my end for things. But it's just kind of funny to think about. It's like I have no job, I have no things, and I must podcast, I must tweet, I must post. Like it is very much the Deleuzian desire to be a production machine because we innately desire to produce. And now that's been weaponized against us or commoditized against us for various reasons. Particularly when it comes to like our online world, like we're all content creators now. But do you, and not to sound so Marxoid, but it's just like, but do you actually own that? Like, is this the means of production, quote unquote? It's like, no, not really, but like it is. It's not a bad kind of way to do things.
My friend Spum Donor got into heat with a Marxist on one of his Twitter comments. He had the part 3 of how Disney stole your childhood. And they're like, no, actually, being a cartoonist is a productive force of labor in the Marxian scheme. And he's like,
is it?
But then he capped it and he said on Twitter, he's like, this is the last time I'm ever going to be nice or charitable to these Marxists. Because it's so pedantic, you know, it's easy. He was trying to agree with them about capitalist exploitation in Disney. But he said like one little thing off and they just like pounced on him. So, anyways,
it's like, oh yeah, we're not allowed to do X, Y, and Z, and it's like, well, it's the old tweet out disagreeing on shit, you know. So carrying on, Charlie Mackey says, "Good evening. I hope you're doing well for a very generous $25. Thank you very much, sir.
$25.
Very kind of you. Sam153 says, cheers to the dynamic duo. To make sure to tune into Dave tonight. Yes, Dave Green is streaming again. I will go listen to it.
I can't believe you, Charlie Mackey. Fucking ban him right now. How dare you promote another person? How dare you promote the competition?
Dave, not Dave. Fuck Gio. Calm the fuck down. You even got the wrong person to yell out wrong. Sam said that. Mackey? It was Sam who said that.
Oh, ban Sam153 right now.
I'm not banning the man who gave me $20. Fuck you.
Kidding. I'm just joking.
Yeah.
We love Dave, folks. He's our friend. You know,
my entire username is sort of an homage to Dave Green. So I probably, I won't be an asshole. Sorry.
I'm declaring chat room martial law right now.
Wingman 45
probably that's a ghost reference. Chat room martial.
Yeah, carrying on so we can finish this episode.
Sorry.
Wingman 45 says, "Where's the Demon Hunters thing?" One, you're lucky that you're fucking getting it for as cheap as that you've been paying for starters. This is below my usual rate. Secondly, I'm doing this with.
You have to review Demon Hunters.
I said I would do it because Capitalissimo said he would join me. So I am doing it. So hold your fucking horses. Some patience is a virtue. But it is coming.
Why don't we all three of us do it? We'll do it in DA. Or are you going to do it in Do You Even Read?
I'm doing it on its own separate thing. But, you know, we'll figure. We'll see what happens because I'm talking to Cap about when we're recording. But it's coming. So calm down. Patience, but thank you for the $3 and the channel membership. Sex Freakman sends a very precarious amount of money in which I'm not going to repeat for YouTube purposes.
Oh, I can guess.
Yeah,
I can guess.
He says the masculinity thing is probably related to the rise in the I'm 30 and lonely in gay vids and its reaction to promises not being kept. And I do think that they were sold these promises, but if by way of pithy solutions or copes. Even say the old school Jordan B. Peterson. Yeah, I have it. I'm inclined to agree, Mr. Sex Freakman. Because a lot of these things, because I mean, this was the big rise of like self-help culture like a decade ago. And that was the way to do it. And then the downward mobility was sold through self-help, whether it's like through therapy. And that's the only good Muhammad Yusuf tweet I've ever seen or whatever his name was, where he was like, therapy is just going with sorry, I was Wingman just replied. Where like the downward mobility gets sold with like therapy in a small home, and then I think it was like Yosef had said something along the lines of like therapy is just paying someone until they turn you into a libtard, and it's like that's the case. I agree. So I mean, there's definitely true. There's some cope aspect to this, but like, both a friend of mine who is older, whose kid is my godson. You know, he's old. He's old enough to be my dad, and his son is quite young. So it's very like they had a kid much later in life, but like he's the most rambunctious 5-year-old I've ever met, and you know he is in a much more rural area than I am, and I was up there not too long ago for his birthday party, his son's birthday party, And he was just telling me about all the young guys that he works with in the 2 jobs that he works. And he also helps with the volunteer fire department. He's like, these guys are radicalized. And like, they've realized the Gen Z especially has kind of come to the conclusion that no one's fucking coming to save them. And that rather than bitch about it, they're just going to do something. So I think it is definitely a generational trend. And people got mad, or they're like, this is Zoomer chauvinism. And it's just like, it's not Zoomer chauvinism in which I'm talking about this, but like when half the millennial guys and gals that I know are literally the Quirk Chungus type archetype, there's reason for the disparagement in the same way that people shit on boomers. Like, that will happen. It will come for you. Like, it will come for us if we don't get our fucking shit together. Like, I hate to be like, I'm just being brutally honest. Like, that's the case. So no, I do agree with Sex Freakman. Like, a lot of this thing does come from this weird trend from like the self-help culture of like a decade ago out of millennials. And now it's been like transfixed into like weird niche online communities, whether it's like the trans IRL stuff or the tiny home downward mobility porn. Like, a lot of it's there. So I think it's sort of important to keep in mind. And then the last super chat for the evening on Entropy, Wingman sends another $3. He says, I have spent $50 asking for this K-pop Demon Hunters review, and damn it, I shall have my K-pop.
Yeah.
You'll get it. You've paid. I will fulfill my obligation.
Look what I did it ready said was the amount 420-69. Please, someone send Prude $420 super chat 69. Please.
That would be kind. I would love
begging
that,
you,
because you would basically pay my chunk of rent for the month. But carrying on.
By the way, now that I mentioned I'm declaring chat room martial law, I have to play this. Okay, it's not gonna get so. That's classic Ghost cans not wave. We need to have like sound. Does StreamYard have sound effects?
I don't know if it has a soundboard, but I can put in a soundboard via OBS.
If you can find a
media assets, no, you can put in background music and sounds. No, you do have a soundboard. Look at that. I guess you do get what you pay for. No, so Osworld Art sends $3. He says, hello, gents. I hope you're well. I have to say, listening to DA makes me more creative in putting out memes. I hope you guys like the new art. Also, Gio, make an art stream for the love of God. And so Oz did put out new art today. I will go put it on screen. Share. Hold on. Is my DM showing? No, they're not. Okay. That's what matters. This is what happens when you don't have the camera on. You start checking your Twitter messages and shit. Here is Mr. Prudentialist when Gio talks about e-girls. These are just like gonna
Kimbo.
These are great. Hold on. Open image in new tab.
Do you remember? Was it Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2? Or was it Modern Warfare 3? We had like the akimbo.
It was Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. You had the akimbo.
Yeah, but you had like the two shotguns, like the old style. It was one of the only models of.
Oh, it was in Modern Warfare 2. You're talking like the
1886,
yeah.
7s,
or 86
like,
or something like that. Yeah. So if I turn off my virtual cam real quick, there you go. I put it up.
There you go.
Here, I will stop sharing. So I put it on there. He's made a few of them now where I can change on the spot. I'm a fan of this one though. I like this one. This is
what do they call that mechanism that a lot of lever action? Yeah, like it's
lever action. Yeah.
Apparently, like the lever action shotguns were not that reliable relative to their rifle counterparts, so they never made like. I'm sure you could probably find lever action shotguns as a gimmick nowadays. I mean, God knows that gun tubers have all these gimmick guns. Gonna show Crude Has-Been Hotel.
The arc of DA is long, but it bends towards Blood Satellite. If that's the case, I would like to be Dimes.
I actually watched the first 2 seasons of Hell of a Boss. It was all right. I mean, it was degenerate or whatever, but like, it was not too bad. I mean, I don't know. Why are they canceling Vizzy Pop? Like, apparently those MB kids don't like her anymore. I don't know. Yeah, exactly. The pump action just works way better. It has more of a mechanical logic to it with a shotgun than with lever action.
I love Gio. I love it when Gio talks about firearms like he knows what he's doing.
No, I mean, I'm not gonna. I've been shooting in my life. Put it that way.
I'll put these also with the channel memberships for the emotes as well.
We could stream on Kick, and they like allow you to have like different emote faces.
Well, yeah, but if you're a channel member for the YouTube channel memberships, you have special emotes that you can put into chat.
Oh, there you go.
And so I've put all of the Oz's in there that you can put in. So if you're a channel member, like that's what you do. Like Oz gets to do it because he's a paid member.
I should really do the channel member things. Like, but what would I put there? Like the paywalled versions?
Yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah, but like there are two. Like I'd have to go through them and censor them, and
Well, if you don't monetize the channel membership stuff, then you're fine.
Oh, but you're still getting money through channel membership.
Yeah, because it's like Subscribestar or
Patreon
that pay you through YouTube.
Because like YouTube keeps recommending me channel memberships, and like,
yeah.
And by the way,
YouTube
absolutely destroyed my views. I put so much soul and heart and effort into that podcast.
This man suffers.
On
Gio is Benelli and Beretta's top guy. He is the top gun wop.
My old man always wanted an Ithaca shotgun, but he never had enough money. But then, like when he was younger, but then like,
hey, can you say lever action again?
Lever action.
Okay. Wingman says, "Bro just said lever action for $3."
Lever action. Sorry.
Lever action.
Lever action.
Yeah, what emotes do you want, Gio? So go talk to Oz about that because he pays the Patreon. If I refuse to ever become a Kick Chat reply guy, well, this guy is a cool dude because you shouldn't become a Kick Chat reply guy. Sorry, Milk Truck Driver.
Anyways, no, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so like that I poured my heart and soul into that Group of 7 Canadian art episode of Content Minded. So if you go to my channel, I actually have a promo YouTube short I released today, and I will probably release episodes when I have enough time to do research. One on Lauren Harris and one on Norval Morrisseau. So I don't know if it was YouTube or because it got a lot of traction on Substack, but I think like people on Substack are more literate and they're not Philistine swines like they are on Twitter or YouTube. So I know, I'm sorry, I really have to rein in my elitism. I'm in no position to be an elitist. I don't come from an aristocratic family. In fact, my father's cousins are actually from the more like educated aristocratic. They're the ones that owned the concrete block plant. And as my grandfather, my nono always used to say, we come from more the farmer side of the family. So my grandfather was a farmer in Italy before he came here. So, it's like I have no right to be as elitist as I am, but I've cultivated a number of aristocratic tastes and, conditions over the years. So,
believe it or not, guys, he's not talking about women.
Gio is brown confirmed. No, I'm actually, I don't know why I have such reddish light hair. I don't know. Maybe it's the Norman. I don't know.
Well, I
don't look like a typical Southern
only time will tell, and I anticipate that one day we'll get a 23andMe from Gio, and it will be a great time.
Just to shut people up.
Under Martian law, doctors and other wizards are forbidden. That's true. Gio has declared Martian law. No wizards allowed. All right. Well, we will be live next week on Gio's channel. I will have a video out probably on Friday. I'll probably put out the King of the Hill review then. I've just been incredibly busy IRL, but I'm going to make some time this week to make sure that gets out Friday morning. And then channel members, you'll probably see it early or get the uncensored get the full episode thing type deal there. He's Northern Italian. So true.
Well, I'm half Central Italian.
That's true. It's all a joke, Gio. We've all seen your Canadian ass. That's very true.
That reminds you send the group chat. He goes, your opinion means nothing. I've seen what you show for. That was funny. Where is that reference from, Prude?
That is unfortunately a Rick and Morty reference where he's just all like, your boos mean nothing to me. I know what you people cheer at, right? I know what I've seen you cheer. I know what makes you cheer.
It's and true, though.
That is true. Although I guess the only good Adult Swim show right now, at least, remains to be Smiling Friends.
season 3's coming out.
Yeah, it drops next month in October. I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna watch it.
I'm too busy watching hockey. Unfortunately,
I'm excited.
You know what I hate?
because it's the one thing I don't think that they can like explicitly ruin. Because like,
yeah,
say what you will about older Adult Swim shows, but like Venture Bros and the rest of them, like they kind of, it's the same thing where there's the like, oh, this is so like, it's so transcore, and it's just like at this rate everything is transcore, because it's like, for whatever reasons or arguments,
I don't know. I've
make.
been listening to a lot of transcore music lately. I've been listening to a lot of Machine Girl and Femtanol, and say what you will about them, they do make good music. Yeah, Femtanol.
You sound like
this person's from Canada. No, yeah, no. Machine Girl is a different band, and then Femtanol is a different music. I don't know, man. Maybe because I'm like a soillennial nostalgist, but they do make.
I mean, so am I, but like, I guess not for that genre of things. I don't know.
No, but yeah,
but like, it's one of the few shows on Adult Swim that I don't think that I don't want to say it's distinctly chud coded, but I mean, they tried to cancel the show early on because they found Zach Hadel's old tweets about the crate replacement. So I was like, yeah, we'll see. You know, like, I mean, I still think
the best Trump parody was done by Psychic Pebbles, or was it Zach Hadel?
Yeah, that is Zach Hadel.
Yeah. He's like, oh, my little guy. He like flattens him. That was pretty funny. No, but yeah, Machine Girl's great. Although they're not like explicitly that, but like every time I go on Twitter and search Machine Girl, there's always like people with flags in the bio. It's like I just went to see them, like, oh my god, like it's something about digital hardcore is just great, you know, something about it. But anyways, no, hopefully I'll try to get an episode out tomorrow. I'll probably drop the ecology episode with our good friend Zoomer Schopenhauer. We went in depth into his new article and his vision of the
green right.
The green right, the ecological future, the oncoming disaster. Smiling Friends is Newgrounds, the show. Alfred.
I did see this post the other day, and it was like a graph, like a made up pie chart comparison where it was like where memes were made, like 2005, and it was like showing all these like various sources for memes, like social media. No, it was like 2010. And it was like various social media platforms like Twitter, Newgrounds, YouTube, etc. And then it's like, and now in 2025, 99% of memes are made all on Instagram and Twitter. And I'm like, this is probably, I mean, like, this is probably a made up bullshit. Well, it's probably like a made up bullshit statistic or whatever. Yeah. Like, but spiritual, it's like one of those, like, this is probably false, but spiritually true type deals. And I'm like, yeah, that feels about right. But also stuck culture, you know, you did a stuck culture. You did a Paul Scalise. You did a Lindy Man. You did a, you know, I'm sorry, I'm doing the copy pasta. But like, it certainly feels that way in a large regard where like, that's it. But also, is that just because you gotten older and you're not on any other platforms? Because I'm like, Newgrounds still exists.
I should bite the bullet and go on TikTok. I should, but I would do really well on TikTok, I feel. But
potentially, I don't know. I'm going to probably cautiously remain a boomer and not do it, and probably for the benefit, because I don't know, like I spend enough time on fucking Twitter as it is. Like,
same.
It's bad enough.
I like Instagram Reels. Instagram Reels, you find some interesting stuff, as I've said.
You find some quality bangers there. It's top stuff.
But no. But anyways, yeah. So hopefully I'll have the episode out tomorrow. If not, please go and watch, because I feel it's very important, and I will do more content about the Group of Seven in the future. So it's just everything's up.
I feel like doing some very like stupid shit. Like I almost want to do something dumb. It's like, here is my Death Cab for Cutie album tier list, and it's just like no one asked for it, but I fucking made it anyway.
Yeah, you could do that.
I will not do that to you. I've only done that once on this channel, and that was the diner coffee review stream. That was fun.
I always want to do a video of my favorite death matches. I wonder if that would go over well.
Probably.
Maybe.
Wrestling is popular.
Yeah.
But anyways, we'll both have stuff out later this week, and I'm having something edited right now, which is my program to post essay. And then I was just given an offer today by a friend IRL who knows who I am. It was like, do you want me to do some editing work for you? And I was like, well, if you're offering, I won't say no.
Oh, you know, I should release, because someone paid me to do this.
Yeah.
Someone long ago paid me to review Sexy Beast, which I have to get to, but apparently the Criterion Collection re-released Sexy Beast as part of their Criterion thing. So I might as well
that's another thing.
capitalize
I need to rewatch Perfect Days, because I was once again invited by Last Things to do his little film review show.
me
little
too, yeah.
film festival thing. I'm recording later this month, and we'll be watching I think it's 2022 or 2023 Japanese film Perfect Days. And I hope to bring, as I tend to on those kind of shows about movies, a fresh perspective, but also interesting films that you may not have seen.
Yeah, that's great. Thick Mac Gio, my son is 2 and is obsessed with Roots Bloody Roots by Sepultura. It's a banger song, but getting tired of listening to 12 times a day. Well, some of the later stuff with what's his name? Derek Green. Like the Nation album is great. Nobody a lot of pays attention to like the earlier ones, like Nation, Floods. Like I really like the one they did, Dante 13, with I believe Max Cavalier, not Max Cavalier. I believe Igor Cavalietta was still the drummer when they did Dante 13. That's a great album by Sepultura without Max Cavalietta. But I mean, all the earlier stuff is great. I mean, you can't top like Chaos AD. I mean, Roots Bloody Roots was like really, to me, I actually talked, it's so bad. I think Ace ghosted me for some reason. I don't know. He like doesn't want to follow me again. But like we did an episode on Content Minded where we reviewed the Roots album. So that's because it really was like a transitional period between like older death metal and new metal, because they would take like a lot of these guys like Korn on tour with them in the mid 90s. And so, and a lot of like, because like really like new metal comes from a different, like it comes from like that album Roots, it comes from Helmet, Pantera, a lot of earlier Sepultura as well, like in terms of their sound. But yeah, I don't know why people they sleep on like later Sepultura. I think Derek Green's a good vocalist. It's just I understand like the romanticism with Max Cavalietta and everything, but
things do change.
These guys are talking about Death Cab for Cutie albums. Like I haven't heard of any of this. Like the best. So the Capitalisimo says the best Death Cab album is The Postal Service Gives Up. Is that an album title? What?
Capitalisimo. I mean, that's its own separate thing. But I mean, I would say the best Death Cab album is probably Transatlanticism. Death Cab for Cutie is still making music. After Codes and Keys, it fucking blows. Although the Ghost of Beverly Drive is a fucking banger. But
they're really popular in Canada, I remember.
That doesn't really surprise me. But we will, bro. Have you seen Twitter right now?
What's going on?
I've been on Twitter all day. It's been pretty bad, unless something else has changed in the last like 20 minutes or the last hour that has totally changed everything. No, I'm scrolling.
Mika, if you could be specific. I mean, we already
if you could be specific. Like Twitter's been already pretty rough.
I search in Woodside Woes, just has like these two huge picture of like these two jugs on the thing. So
yeah, I mean I've seen there's been a lot already that's we've seen Twitter all day. It's been pretty bad. So yeah, it's I don't know. You'll have to tell me.
Oh my God, Jay Engel mentioned that Derbyshire article.
Everyone did.
Yeah,
everyone did.
Yeah,
because it's just like he was right. Everyone owes John Derbyshire an apology.
Yeah, I don't know why they went after him so hard. I guess was he actually like? Oh, Nick is making up with Captive Dreamer. Templar predicted this.
Bad stuff.
What? That could. I don't believe it. Let me see this. Captive Dreamer.
Well, I'll let y'all. We can dig into Twitter drama later after that. All right. Well, this has been a pretty good episode, I think. It was a good article. It was good stuff to talk about. We covered the news at the very beginning. Apparently it was a fake DM. Okay, well, we'll see.
Yeah.
Drama aside, like, again, anything with Twitter, we're on it, so you don't have to be. Highly recommend that you don't. Oh, you sent another entropy chat. Hold on, one last quick one. He says, Oswald Art says, this is a question for Prudent Gio. Do you know how one could go about painting a mural? A friend of mine is asking if I can for a lot of money, but I'm not sure where to start legally or art wise. If you're printing the mural in a private setting or a domicile, I imagine that's totally fine. If you're doing it publicly, I would consult with your local city council, consult with your local ordinance for city ordinance or town ordinance, and then go from there.
Or you could just be a graffiti artist.
Yeah, but if you want to do this legally and make it above board, then just check your local.
Oh yeah,
check your local stuff, and if a license is required, I mean, always just ask like the city clerk, and they'll direct you, and you can go from there. I think that's totally fair in that regard. Bro is a rentoid confirmed. Yeah, wingman. Like I just said earlier, I'm saving up money to buy a house.
That was such a great tweet.
This Inwa said domicile. Yeah, fuck y'all.
No, but
I apparently do not hate the audience enough.
That tweet where like the guy had a huge gun. He's like, I'm raiding my rentoid's fridge. Like that was a great tweet.
Golly.
Rentoid.
God. This is I don't even live the sweet, neat life of, Giant Gio, and this is the shit I get from you people. The neat life with Giant Gio, and instead
a neat aristocrat.
Yeah. Emphasis on neat. Golly.
Oh man, rentoid. What a term. That was funny though. I think that probably was just fake though. Like, but that's happened. Like or like a landlord. Does your landlord raid your fridge, Prude?
No.
Okay.
To be honest, I don't think I've never actually seen my landlord.
Oh, you live in like an apartment complex.
I do live in an apartment complex. I mean, like I know who my landlord is, but I have never had to personally interact with said landlord. And my
best friend lived in a place
I
where he knew his landlord.
I have a pretty nice place.
Yeah.
So I don't really have much to complain about in my life. And then after that it'll just be doing what I've been doing, which is saving money for an apartment, or if not for an apartment, for a house down payment. Yeah. But all in due time. But yeah, thank you, chat. I need to be more like Dimes. I need to just hate you people more. You all suck. Yeah,
Dimes like hates. He's got like the Nick Fuentes school of hating half your chat.
As you should. I think, as we say all the time in other chats,
they love it.
You don't hate the audience enough. They do. You all get off on it. You sick fucks. You sick freaks.
Oh, I don't know. I don't have the heart to like pour scorn on our audience. I mean, sometimes, but like not. I mean,
do you have the courage to hate the poor? But do you have the courage to hate the
duploid, a condoid?
Yeah, a duploid? Oh, for like duplexes?
I never understood like a condo thing, because like it is essentially just an apartment, but like you own it, but like you still are subject to the laws of an apartment. So, I mean, I guess you could paint the walls or whatever, but I don't understand.
Walls, but yeah. Okay, well, thank you all for the wealth mocking. I greatly appreciate it. We will be live next week on Gio's channel. I have no idea what the hell we're going to talk about. After that, it'll be the Steins Gate review that we were paid to do. I need to catch up with Capitalissimo when we're recording stuff. Houseoid, Gio's a Too many oids. Too many oids.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's. I pay 5 days early. They leave me alone. So true. All right. Thank you, everybody. We will be live next week on Gio's channel. Links are down below in the description, and we will see you all next time.
God bless. Goodbye. Too sweet.
See you, gents.
We're shooting pearls here.